Chapter 341. The Yellow Sparrow is behind. This is impossible. How can humans be so strong? At this moment, Anna Sarapova, the female agent who hailed from Red Sparrow and had weathered countless storms, had her azure eyes widened to their limit, her face filled with horror. She was suspended in midair, and the other party's hand hadn't even touched her. The action was very dangerous, and Anna was so scared that she flailed her arms and legs, trying to grab onto something for support. Thankfully, her foundation was deep and solid. On the contrary, Liu Yao, with an attitude eager to learn, gained quite a bit of knowledge. Red Sparrow had a course which was to record on the spot and then conduct group discussions based on the recording, analyze and comment in detail, all to hone skills. It can only be said that their professionalism was remarkable. Only 3 minutes had passed and Anna was already completely out of commission. So much for the Red Sparrow, Liu Yao said before promptly leaving the scene. He went to a deserted location and sent Ping-An back to the other world. A while later, just as Agent Anna regained consciousness, she lightning fast pulled out a handgun. Her gaze was icy, her expression murderous, completely different from her charming demeanor just moments before, and she only relaxed slightly when she was sure she was alone. Recalling what had happened before she lost consciousness, she cursed under her breath, "Bastard," and took out a test tube intending to collect Liu Yao's bio-information. But after searching for a long time she didn't even find a single hair, just a dry and bitter taste in her mouth, as if she had eaten something unclean. Anna spat out in disgust, "Tui, bastard. Beast." However, she quickly adjusted her mindset, thinking there would be plenty of opportunities in the future since this was just the first encounter. Anna straightened her attire and, though not very nimbly, made her way back to the site of the decryption work. The decryption work was still proceeding in an orderly fashion. What remained was just waiting for the encrypted system to be fully breached. However, unseen by anyone, a spy satellite was pointed right at this location from the skies above. And the Star Alliance country, 8,000 kilometers away, was already privy to all the intelligence from here. At this moment, Colonel Reynolds, a scientist from the military of the Star Alliance country, was perusing Sergei's detailed file. This warlord of Yakolun still hasn't given up. This time, he's actually involved with an agent from Moscow and even found Liu Yao. Very interesting. Sergei had previously sent people to infiltrate the lab, and he had long been on the radar of the Foreign Affairs Bureau. As soon as trouble arose, he was the first suspect. Not to mention, Sergei was also frantically making connections, preparing to ally with countries that hosted the Star Alliance countries' laboratories to mount a challenge. Agent Janice spoke expressionlessly. These obsolete relics from the Iron Alliance harbor immense hostility toward our country. The military suggests firing a missile to destroy the entire estate, to prevent leaks. No, that won't do. Now that Liu Yao has shown himself and we've finally got his whereabouts, we must capture this cute little one. This is far more important than any virus. Colonel Reynolds sighed, he even wants a nuclear bomb, what a dangerous character. Then, he revealed a look of keen interest. Right, this will also give us a chance to demonstrate the power of the Brain Control Project, which would help with next year's funding applications. Agent Janice stood up decisively, I'll prepare right away and personally head to Yakolun to carry out the capture. Make sure he's alive, Colonel Reynolds reminded carefully, he must be brought back alive and in one piece. Liu Yao returned to the other world, primarily to bring Ping-An back. This creature was too troublesome, needing to hunt large animals every day. It had even just captured a brown bear that weighed over 1,000 pounds. Carrying the prey for over 100 kilometers, just to dig out a fresh bear gallbladder for its master to enjoy. Touched by such filial piety, Liu Yao choked down the bear gall, despite the fishy taste. But carrying on like this would sooner or later lead to discovery, so it's best to send it back to the other world for the little buddies to enjoy themselves. Jin Garden is calm and peaceful, with Yu Yanmei and the 2 spiritual sparrowhawks there, it is very safe. The spiritual sparrowhawks can now detect those with ill intentions from 20 kilometers away, nose diving at nearly 1,000 kilometers per hour to shred them to pieces. As predators at the top of the pyramid, even deploying an innate grandmaster would only ensure the defeat or driving away of the spiritual sparrowhawks. Regarding this, the 3 girls have had a deep experience recently. Cooperating with the spiritual sparrowhawks, they drove away several batches of seductive wretches who came to entice men. They even reported the 3 wives list up the chain. As long as the Ministry of Rights deems it suitable to be registered, any later comers can only be concubines. Your next read awaits at my virtual library empire. Liu Yao, concerned about his own nuclear bomb, only stayed for 1 day before leaving, giving the entire family a massage before his departure. Liao Qi, after enjoying herself, got up and dressed, feeling reluctant. You're leaving so soon. Liu Yao touched the girl's cheeks full of collagen and smiled, don't worry, I will be back soon. The girl rubbed her cheek against her beloved's palm affectionately and coquettishly said, I want to hear you play the pipa. All right, I'll play a piece before leaving. Liu Yao spat out the pipa charm, and the melody of Spring River Flower Moon Night spread for miles. The rhythm was winding and melodious, painting a serene and distant, vague and mesmerizing picture of a moonlit spring river night. The music cleansed the soul, bringing clarity to the divine soul, with both the girl and the spiritual sparrowhawks intoxicated by it. Even Yu Yanmei appeared to listen. After the piece ended, everyone was still immersed in it. Yu Yanmei was the first to come back to her senses, feeling a clarity of soul, and she inwardly sighed. The pure and tranquil spiritual platform wipes away the dust. Liu Xiaozi's spirit refining stage has advanced yet again. While his family members were absorbed, Liu Yao returned to Blue Star. In a manor on the outskirts of Kiev, the decryption work was nearing its end. Agent Anna saw Liu Yao arrive and felt even more swollen and nauseated below. She glared at him unfriendly. Liu Yao responded with an elegant and polite smile, where's Sergei? I haven't seen him either. He's busy contacting various places for a press conference to completely expose this matter. Anna shrugged her shoulders, such an action is very dangerous, Star Alliance country will definitely take action. I warned Sergei, but he no longer cares about his own life. Liu Yao nodded with a sense of regret, as the old man's soul had boiled with fervor, capable of a fearless final stroke. He is a true warrior, Anna continued, but it is also good this way. With Sergei in the open, even if something like an assassination happens, it could cover us as we deliver the decrypted data back to our country. This matter, relying solely on a few small countries' pressure is useless, it would definitely require the declarations from a large country. Moscow has always been at odds with Star Alliance country and is eager to be involved in this matter. The two didn't chat much before a beeping came from the equipment, signaling the completion of the decryption work. This computer contained all the data of the laboratory over the past 5 years, amassing 10 TB. Anna immediately began verifying the authenticity and usefulness of the data. But her expression grew uglier by the minute. Do these bastards want to destroy the world or what? Liu Yao, standing behind her, saw everything crystal clear. The laboratory had indeed conducted human experiments, but the focal point was a new type of virus, with an extremely high transmission capability and characteristic of a global pandemic. The virus was not developed in this lab, which only tested its effects on different races. However, it was enough to constitute evidence, accusing Star Alliance country of crimes against humanity. Chapter 342. Who am I? Next, Liu Yao only needed to wait for Sergei to bring the nuclear bomb, and the operation would be considered a complete success. According to the agreement, it would take about 2 days. He didn't idle, either, once again venturing into Chernobyl's sarcophagus to bask in a lethal dose of radiation. The innate's cultivation efficiency here was no longer high, but it could be used to charge the star key. Continue your journey with my virtual library empire. Together with his own mind force, he estimated he could charge it to 15% in 2 days, which was enough for daily use. But while Liu Yao was reveling in his radiation bath, the nuclear bomb he'd been brooding over encountered an accident. The Kyzyr Tashk Mountains. Cough cough. The mountain air carried a hint of chill, and General Sergei coughed violently a few times. The sound of gears meshing, clank clank, signaled a metal door slowly closing. Sergei personally led a few subordinates out of this abandoned underground bunker, transporting a metal box. Inside was something resembling a gas cylinder, an actual nuclear warhead produced during the era of the former Steel Alliance. When the nuclear arsenal was being dismantled, Yakolun secretly hoarded a batch of nuclear bombs as a trump card for future rise and revival. But now it seemed that no matter what advanced weapons one had, they were all useless. Sergei sighed, realizing that what this country desperately needed was not material things. Several guards hoisted the nuclear bomb onto a van. After ensuring everything was in order, Sergei also got in the vehicle and suddenly realized something was off. The driver was suspicious. His guards were all male, yet the driver was wearing a business suit skirt, her brilliant blonde hair visible, obviously a woman. The woman turned around, her turquoise eyes filled with wild beauty, and chuckled, "I'm pleased to meet you, General Sergei. I am Agent Janice from the Foreign Affairs Bureau." No sooner had she finished speaking than several pft sounds were heard. Sergei's guards' heads burst with small bloody holes, falling to the ground without a peep, assassinated by silenced bullets before they could even draw their weapons. Sergei remained unfazed, sitting upright as he straightened his collar and said, "Agent Janice? I was mentally prepared for your visit. But all this is in vain, I absolutely will not yield." Agent Janice gently twirled the wedding ring on her ring finger, composedly saying, "You are a warrior. In our daily operations, we occasionally encounter people like you. Fortunately, we have solutions for such cases." With that, she took out a syringe gun and jabbed it into Sergei's neck, injecting a vial of liquid. A manor on the outskirts of Kiev. Moscow's agents had already finished packing and were ready to leave. Having obtained the desired data, what remained was waiting for Sergei to hold a press conference, submit the evidence to the United Nations, and have all sides confront the issue together. At that moment, the sound of a car parking echoed through the manor. Anna observed through the surveillance camera that Sergei had arrived with his people, so she stood up and approached the computer. Following Sergei, 4 expressionless guards entered the house. Anna greeted him with a professional smile, "General, the decryption is complete. The documents show the laboratory intentionally leaks viruses every year, causing unexplained diseases and deaths among local civilians, while they take the opportunity to collect data and samples. Among these are anthrax viruses capable of causing widespread infection and unique bacterial strains that lead to leukemia. The places of dispersion include not only residential areas, but even schools. Just to test the resistance of youth and children to biochemical weapons. Such unfathomable evil, you can look it up at your leisure and denounce it to the international community." Sergei nodded and walked towards the computer, seemingly eager to check for himself. But in the next second, his hand suddenly produced a handgun, which he pressed against Anna's forehead. "Give me the data you have on you." Surprise flickered across Anna's face but vanished quickly, as she calmly said, "General, do you realize what you are doing?" Sergei's actions at that moment were tantamount to offending 2 major powers at once. The 4 guards who had followed him in, showed no mercy as they pulled out MP5 submachine guns and began firing indiscriminately around them. Several of Moscow's operatives, as well as the subordinates Sergei had left behind, were caught off guard and turned into bloody gourds. Sergei, with an expressionless face, searched Anna's body and extracted a hard drive, tossing it to one of the guards. The man caught it with his hand, revealing a trident eagle tattoo on his arm. Anna's gaze sharpened. "Star Alliance Marine Corps? You've defected to the Star Alliance country." She had initially thought Sergei was simply burning his bridges, but it never crossed her mind that he would defect to the Star Alliance country. How could this be possible? Liu Yao stayed in the stone coffin, seeking out areas with high radiation, as his body would absorb radioactive materials naturally. Given a few more turns around, the area would be cleaner than the outside. Seeing that the agreed time was approaching, he left the place and headed for the manor. He had just gotten halfway when he surprisingly received 2 phone calls. The first call was from Anna, who seemed to be enduring pain, her breathing rapid. "Don't go to the manor. I just escaped from there." "What happened?" "Listen, what I'm about to say might be hard for you to believe, but it's all true. Sergei claims he is an undercover spy for the Star Alliance, and he personally shot my colleagues. I'm warning you seriously. Don't go to the manor." She hung up after her speaking. Liu Yao was somewhat incredulous. How could Sergei be a person from the Star Alliance? A man close to death, his only desire before passing was to wreck the Star Alliance's biological lab, to give them trouble. And everything else could be fake, but that boiling spirit was absolutely genuine. Soon after, Liu Yao received a call from Sergei. "The nuclear bomb is ready. Come get it at the manor." The voice was exactly the same as usual, only eerily calm. After hanging up, Liu Yao ran towards the manor. Upon arriving at the manor, Sergei warmly greeted Liu Yao. Numerous soldiers dressed in special operations uniforms steadily advanced, with drones and armed helicopters taking off. The uniforms of these soldiers were those of the Star Alliance's SEAL team. What Anna said was actually true. Liu Yao was covered in little red dots from laser sights, surrounded by shouting and hollering, ordering him to surrender. Liu Yao wasn't concerned with such a minor scene, he was just curious to see what Sergei was really up to. Sergei aimed his gun at Liu Yao, also slowly closing in, his tactical movements identical to the surrounding SEAL team. Liu Yao looked Sergei up and down, his expression turning strange as he softly asked, "Who are you?" The soul of the man before him was odd, emitting two types of brain waves. This was as if a person had two heads, truly inconceivable. Sergei was actually taken aback by this question, freezing on the spot. "Who am I?" I am an undercover agent for the Star Alliance country, codename Cicada. No, I am the Deputy Secretary of the Yakolun Security Committee, Commander of Special Operations Forces." Soon, the old man seemed to fall into mental disarray, starting to pound on his own head while emitting a beast-like roar. Just then, the tap-tap-tap of high heels hitting the floor was heard. It was Agent Janice, in her professional business suit, elegantly approaching Ike. Chapter 343. The upcoming trial. "At last, we meet, dear Mr. Liu Yao." Agent Janice had a high nose and deep-set eyes, blonde hair and blue eyes, yet her Xiao language was extremely fluent. At this moment, her gaze was like that of a cat playing with its prey, revealing an interest tinged with cruelty. Liu Yao cooperatively allowed the soldiers to cuff his hands and feet, while he asked, "What have you done to Sergei?" A subordinate handed over a tablet computer, which Agent Janice took and opened. "Regarding that, Colonel Reynolds will explain to you." On the tablet's video call appeared a gaunt black man wearing frameless glasses. "Hello, Mr. Liu Yao, I am Reynolds Byrne, but you can call me Reynolds." By then, Sergei had already stood up, looking confused and still coughing up blood. Reynolds eagerly explained, with a sense of accomplishment. "This is the Brain Control Project's personality reconstruction. Simply put, it involves injecting lysergic diethylamide, clearing the original thinking. Then, through a series of psychological suggestions, electric shocks, etc., false memories are implanted, instilling new thoughts. The Brain Control Project began in the 1940s, with the infamous truth serum being one of its byproducts. Because it was too inhumane, the research was repeatedly halted, but it always covertly continued. Now, it seemed, they had results. Liu Yao said icily, "Playing with human hearts with science, you truly are beasts." Such words truly hurt. Reynolds clutched at his chest, pretending to be in agony. At this point, Sergei, having overheard the conversation, suddenly trembled violently, then raised his gun, aiming it at Janice. He gasped for air, the gun shaking, but his fingers couldn't pull the trigger. At that moment, his mind was flooded with memories of studying and living in the Star Alliance country. These experiences felt incredibly real, deeply etched in his mind, as if he truly was an undercover agent for the Star Alliance country. But another consciousness constantly reminded him. "This is all fake, you are a warrior of the Iron Alliance, of Yakolun." The two consciousnesses clashed repeatedly, Sergei's head splitting with pain. He used the butt of his gun to hammer at his own head, quickly becoming bloodied. Seeing this, Reynolds was satisfied with his research results and laughed. "Fascinating, isn't it? The human mind is so fragile and easily deceived by false memories, generating a new personality." At that moment, Sergei, with a roar, rushed to Liu Yao and handed him a keychain with a cylindrical piece of metal on it, the infamous nuclear launch key. Sergei's mind was unclear, his eyes looking in different directions, muttering, "This is the reward I promised." After that, he took the gun into his mouth and pulled the trigger, a muffled sound followed by a spray of blood from the back of his neck, and he had committed suicide. Seeing this, Reynolds laughed, "Ah, a parting gift from a friend, but this can only become a decoration, keep it as a memento." Liu Yao casually pocketed the launch key and asked, "Where is my nuclear bomb?" "A dangerous toy, already transported overnight to the Star Alliance country, to be dismantled, diluted into nuclear fuel." Liu Yao nodded. It seemed he would have to make a trip to the Star Alliance country to retrieve what belonged to him. At this point, Reynolds added, "Agent Janice, bring Mr. Liu Yao to me as soon as possible, I cannot wait any longer. Take good care of our guest, not a single hair should be missing." Hearing this, Liu Yao laughed, "You're taking me to the Star Alliance country?" Reynolds replied enthusiastically, "Yes, you will come to the Star Alliance country. But first, you will face judgment under the watchful eyes of people from around the world, paying the price for what you've done. But don't worry, it's just a formality, you won't be punished. Because after the trial, you'll come straight to me, and I'll receive you properly." Upon hearing this, Liu Yao lowered his head and fell silent, seemingly resigned to his fate. Several military soldiers took him onto a black box truck and sped toward the airport. There, a C-17 transport aircraft was on standby, ready to take Liu Yao directly to the Star Alliance country. And soon, a piece of news hit the headlines and trending searches of media outlets across Blue Star. The notorious terrorist who repeatedly attacked the Star Alliance's overseas military bases and hijacked planes. Liu Yao had been captured and was about to be extradited back to the Star Alliance country to stand trial. The trial would be broadcast live to the entire world. Once the news broke, it immediately set off a firestorm of public opinion. Everywhere on Blue Star with electricity, people were eagerly discussing the matter. In Xia country, the online intellectuals began to revel. The instigator has no way to hide. If you choose violence, you must bear the consequences. Well done, they finally caught the most brazen terrorist in history. True to the Star Alliance country. This trial will perfectly reflect the Star Alliance country's judicial fairness and respect for human rights. Looking forward. Reactions among those who knew Liu Yao, however, were varied. Li Lei was presiding over a company morning meeting when she saw the notification. She nearly fainted. She hurriedly ended the meeting and ran back home to lock herself in a room, sobbing incessantly. Li Jin and his wife Zhaoya sat in front of the computer, watching the news video in disbelief, their faces ashen. Only their daughter weakly asked, "What happened to Uncle Liu Yao?" The couple was speechless. Elder Master Qi watched the news with a grave face and then sighed deeply. Qi Kuya and Qi Jun also sighed. And in Yukolun, the escaped agent Anna, after seeing the news, lamented, "I took such a big risk to warn you, why did you still go?" But at that moment, her own situation was also dire. Though she was lucky to have escaped from the manor, the Star Alliance country had no intention of letting her go. A team of elite agents was dispatched to hunt her down, and at present, the two sides were playing a game of cat and mouse in the mountains. Alexander, who had taken refuge in the mountains, lamented his terrible luck and then prayed to God for protection. Sana, a student at school, suddenly exclaimed in the quiet classroom. Luckily, the subsequent discussion about the Liu Yao trial made her outburst seem less abrupt. Sana held her hands together and prayed softly yet earnestly, "I entrust all my hopes to you, Mother of God, please protect him." In other places, the atmosphere was completely opposite. Elated residents of the Star Alliance country flooded into Times Square, loudly shouting patriotic slogans. And they snapped up T-shirts online emblazoned with phrases like "We got him," "Star Alliance country forever mighty," and "Sentence him to the gallows," ready to head to the scene on the day of the trial. Discover exclusive tales on my virtual library empire. News headlines spared no expense in their praise. Leaders of several countries believe Liu Yao's arrest and trial made the world safer. This is a positive development and milestone in the international fight against terrorism. We will be broadcasting the trial live in its entirety, so stay tuned. Chapter 344. Surprise. On the C-17 transport plane, Liu Yao leaned back leisurely in the cabin, waiting for the nearly 20-hour flight to end. If it weren't for the 40 kilograms shackles on his body, he would have looked as if he were on vacation. This fixture was no ordinary one, with its silver-white body reflecting a metallic chill, and a constant green light on it. It was a proximity sensor, ready to release a high-voltage current instantly if he went beyond the limit, enough to shock someone into immediate unconsciousness. The current could also be triggered by a remote control device or a voice control device. Moreover, this gleaming silver instrument was equipped with a magnetic lock function. At the moment, it was generating a powerful magnetic force, firmly adhering Liu Yao to the transport plane's cabin wall, rendering him immovable. The 5 SEAL team members escorting Liu Yao had great faith in this high-tech shackle. Besides its fancy features, its hardness was equally astonishing, not even an elephant would dream of breaking free. And, seeing Liu Yao's carefree demeanor at the moment, one team member with a scar at the corner of his eye and mouth sneered. "This yellow-skinned monkey must be insane, right? I hope you're still this happy after meeting Colonel Reynolds." Liu Yao shifted to a more comfortable position and smiled, "I'm very much looking forward to that moment." Seeing Liu Yao's indifferent expression, the man said coldly, saying one word, "Shock." The green light on the shackle turned red, and a high-voltage current was released in an instant. Well, it was kind of thrilling, in a way. But ever since Liu Yao had gained his extraordinary powers, he had always been concealing them and had not exposed any overly astonishing abilities. Therefore, at that moment, he lowered his head. "Enjoy that, you mutt?" asked the scar-faced soldier, smugly. Liu Yao looked up at him, his gaze neither salty nor bland. To join the SEAL team, one must have gone through rigorous training, and be more perceptive than the average person. In a flash, the scar-faced soldier felt an intense panic surge through him, his body trembling and cold sweat pouring out, his heart even threatening to stop. "What did you do to me?" He hurriedly raised his automatic rifle, taking deep breaths as he aimed at Liu Yao, his finger already on the trigger. His teammates were shocked at the sight and thought he was having a PTSD episode. They hurried to stop him. "Hold your fire! Are you insane? Do you want to crash the plane? Wow, easy easy!" Finally, the tattooed armed team captain managed to calm the soldier's emotions and had him lower his gun. Liu Yao watched the group with a smug grin, a look of mockery on his face. The scar-faced soldier also knew he had just made a fool of himself, scared by a prisoner shackled in high-tech, heavy restraints. His teammates must think he was a coward, a scaredy cat. "Yellow-skinned mutt, just you wait. Reynold will vivisect you alive. You'll watch yourself being cut into countless pieces while completely conscious." Meanwhile, the commotion in the cabin caught the attention of Agent Janice, who walked out of the cockpit and frowned. "Gentlemen, I must remind you. This is a very important prisoner. He needs to face trial in public. And Colonel Reynolds' orders are to bring him back alive and with every single hair intact. Understand?" The soldiers solemnly responded, "Understood. Ma'am." At that moment, Liu Yao asked her, "What have you done with my nuclear bomb?" Agent Janice replied expressionlessly, "What you should be doing now is repenting and praying." After saying that, she turned and left, and the cabin grew quiet once more. Experience tales at my virtual library empire. The next day, the plane landed at the capital of the Star Alliance nation. The moment Liu Yao disembarked, he received a warm welcome, enjoying the treatment of a top-tier celebrity. Countless citizens of the Star Alliance country, holding banners and wearing culture shirts, were shouting slogans. "God bless the Star Alliance nation, freedom will prevail." Once Liu Yao was put into the car, they waved their flags and sang the national anthem. Next, he was to go to the Supreme Court of the Star Alliance nation for trial, and the entire process was to be broadcast worldwide. Along the way, the streets were filled with people holding banners and slogans, as well as many members of the media. Many reporters on the scene immediately began their coverage. "A terrorist, a thug who has repeatedly attacked our military bases abroad, will stand trial today. Countless soldiers have lost their precious lives to his evil deeds. Today, freedom and justice will be upheld." The crowd was massive and lively, and when citizens of the Star Alliance country gather in groups, they enjoy engaging in zero-cost shopping, so the government had to deploy the National Guard to maintain order. Numerous soldiers stood on both sides of the road, preventing overly enthusiastic members of the public from rushing into the streets. Sitting in the car, Liu Yao curiously observed everything. He had originally planned to act immediately after deplaning, but suddenly took a wicked pleasure in seeing what this bunch could stir up. A public trial was a necessary procedure for the Star Alliance nation to restore international reputation. Soon, the convoy escorting Liu Yao arrived at the Supreme Court of the Star Alliance nation located on East Congress Avenue. The building was majestic, its entire front held up by 16 marble columns, with high stone steps at the entrance and 2 statues representing thoughts of justice and the might of law standing on either side. Even more people and media gathered here, shouting and cheering behind the barricades set up by the military. As Liu Yao got out of the car, he waved to the people all around, greeting them in a friendly manner, as if to thank them for coming to welcome him. At this, the surrounding crowd completely exploded, nearly breaching the human wall formed by the military in their excitement. "Terrorist, go to hell! Sentence him to hanging! Electrocution! Terrorists deserve to die!" The armed personnel escorting Liu Yao hurriedly stopped him from greeting the crowd. And the media, fearing the event wasn't sensational enough, quickly snapped photos of the scene and countless reporters rushed toward Liu Yao with microphones, shouting, "Mr. Liu Yao, do you have any regrets? Liu Yao, are you an android from Xia country?" Unfortunately, Liu Yao was surrounded not only by SEAL team members but also by countless agents from the Foreign Affairs Bureau, preventing the reporters from getting through. At this moment, all parties appeared on the public trial scene to capitalize on the event's heat. Media, internet celebrities and even public intellectuals from Xia country came to join in the frenzy, while the government of the Star Alliance nation also held a press conference on the spot right away. Agent Janice stood on the podium, speaking with poise and elegance. The evil actions of terrorists are intended to lead our nation into chaos and regression, but their plots will not succeed. Our nation remains strong, and the great people of the Star Alliance nation have been mobilized to defend their country. Subsequently, numerous politicians and military officers took the stage to talk at length, gilding themselves in the flash of cameras and the eye of the media, seizing political capital. The president of the Star Alliance also made a televised speech. Today is the day all citizens of the Star Alliance nation unite in seeking justice. We will strive forward, defend freedom, and defend all that is good and just in the world. The speech was instantly pushed to various media and mobile phones, causing the crowd on the scene to shout and cheer wildly. The atmosphere heated. Liu Yao stood in front of the grand and solemn entrance of the Supreme Court, witnessing the carnival unfolding around him. And seeing that countless members of Congress and the like wanted to give speeches, he said to the people around him, "When do I get to see Reynold?" The scar-faced soldier who had previously had an unpleasant exchange mocked. "This is just the beginning. The public trial will last 3 days, and then comes the main event. Visiting Dr. Reynolds' laboratory." "Ah? That complicated?" said Liu Yao. "I don't have time to play house with you all." Around him, there was a ripple of scoffing and the scar-faced soldier sarcastically said, "What can you do about it, then?" Liu Yao shrugged his shoulders, and with a hard effort of his hands, the cuffs broke apart like a biscuit. Surprise! Chapter 345. I'm not acting anymore. How is this possible? The SEAL team members responsible for escorting Liu Yao, as well as agents from the Foreign Affairs Bureau, all had incorrect expressions on their faces. The specialized restraints were made of an alloy, they couldn't possibly be broken by a human. The soldier with the scarred face shouted wildly, "Shock!" The shackles on Liu Yao's feet immediately began to shock him, but he continued to tear at them as if nothing was happening. Amid the grating sound of metal being pulled apart, the solid alloy turned into fragments. After moving his limbs a little, Liu Yao said, "All right, I'm done pretending. Actually, I'm Superman. Hands behind your head, kneel down, and you can save your life. Fuck you." His response came from the frenzied shooting of the 15 escorts. The agents in black suits drew their guns and fired, but Liu Yao had long since become immune to the bullets from handguns. The peanuts shot at him couldn't even cause pain. The SEAL team members also immediately lifted their automatic rifles and fired, the sound of gunfire filling the air as bullets whistled out of the chambers. But aside from sparks flying everywhere, it was entirely useless. The bullets were either deflected or crushed into metallic pieces after impact. This can't be happening. This group had emptied their magazines without causing so much as a scratch on the target. Now, they stood dumbfounded in terror, elite as they were, having even forgotten to reload their weapons. Next, it was Liu Yao's turn to make a move. Enjoy more content from my virtual library empire. With the sound of breaking the air at an extreme speed, he turned into a blur of shadow and instantly moved in front of his enemies, punching out with explosive force. In the next moment, agents in black suits and SEAL team members in special combat uniforms were sent flying more than 50 meters away, as if struck by a speeding truck. Blood gushed from their orifices, their bodies twisted unnaturally, silent and limp like broken rags. Only the scar-faced soldier remained unharmed. Trembling all over, cold sweat soaked through his clothes, his terrified heart nearly stopping. He had already experienced this feeling on the plane, and now it was even more pronounced. The demon in his eyes was smiling at him, pushing the scarred soldier to the peak of fear. Thinking of what Liu Yao had said before, he knelt down with a thud, tossing his weapon far away, then put his hands behind his head. A gesture of surrender recognized internationally. His face was full of disbelief, and he muttered, "The devil, this must be the devil." Liu Yao inquired, "Where is Colonel Reynold?" "Colonel Reynold isn't in the capital, he's at the Derrick Biological Laboratory, in Mali State." "Not here, huh? What about Agent Janice then?" "She's holding a press conference 3 blocks away." The man answered every question without hesitation. Liu Yao patted his head, "Very good. Whether you can survive is all down to your luck now." After saying that, he looked towards the military forces closing in. At this moment, the entire scene was already in an uproar. Everything had happened too quickly, and the vast majority of people hadn't reacted to what had occurred. Even those who saw it clearly couldn't believe their own eyes and stood frozen in place. The cautious ones were already retreating, while the media and internet celebrities on the scene were immediately thrilled. The prisoner is escaping? Great! Quick, get filming! The cameras immediately started rolling towards Liu Yao's direction, and many drones flew overhead, capturing the scene from above. And the National Guard soldiers present were already forming a tactical formation and began pressing forward, at the same time dispersing the nearby crowd. Hands behind your head and kneel on the ground. Do it now! Liu Yao ignored the warnings and moved towards them slowly, also giving civilians nearby time to evacuate. And as he got closer, many people who were naturally sensitive suddenly felt their limbs trembling and their heart rates become erratic, inexplicably terrified. This was the effect of Liu Yao completely releasing his aura, creating the natural oppressive feeling of a higher being. No one knew who fired the first shot, but suddenly gunfire erupted, with nearly 100 people holding AR-15s and firing wildly. Countless shell casings clinked as they hit the ground, bullets pouring down like torrential rain. This time, under the watchful eyes of many, captured by innumerable high-definition devices, everyone at the scene, the whole population of Blue Star, saw clearly what happened. Amid the sparks flying, Liu Yao advanced calmly, impervious to harm, his iron-like body revealed as his clothing tore. The bullets had no effect. God! The bullets shattered. Why is he unharmed? He's ignoring the bullets. T-800? Superman! Heavens! He's charging forward. So fast! Liu Yao charged through the air. His arms whipped into dark shadows, filling the air with terrifying whooshing sounds. The very next second, countless soldiers were flung away like tennis balls. Every now and then, someone would scream as they flew overheads, splattering like a burst tomato when they hit the ground. Some soldiers were still firing their rifles as they got knocked away. Many civilians and media hadn't left yet, they stared dumbfounded at the scene until the stray bullets caused the soil and rocks around them to explode, only then did they scream and run for their lives. The scene was chaotic, soldiers cried out in terror and fired in all directions. They couldn't make out Liu Yao's figure, not even knowing where the enemy was, dying one after another in succession, their screams filling the air. It's a monster! What the hell is this thing? I can't see him! I can't see him! Liu Yao's movement speed could instantly accelerate to 55 meters per second, to the naked eye it seemed like teleportation, his dark silhouette flashed and he was already upon them, a single strike turning a person into a burst tomato. What kind of monster is this? Spread out, all of you scatter! Requesting heavy firepower support. The National Guard's commander screamed frantically, but the army quickly collapsed. They hadn't even had a clear look at the enemy, their comrades were dying around them, one after another, as though run over by a truck. At this moment, these soldiers felt nothing but helplessness and fear. It's the devil! The devil from hell! This is straight out of a sci-fi movie. They threw away their weapons and started to run, spreading out turned into a full rout. Watching the enemy flee, Liu Yao did not pursue. He turned his head and saw that the soldier with the scarred face had been hit by numerous stray bullets and had turned into a bloodied gourd, ultimately not surviving. At this instant, his battle was being broadcast live to the entire world by countless high-definition devices, shocking an untold number of viewers. Even those who had not been following the public trial were startled by the loud exclamations of those around them and immediately started watching on their mobile phones. Xia country! Li Lei watched the man she missed day and night on the screen with red eyes, her heart filled with worry and anxiety. Li Jin and Zhaoya couple felt the same, as did the countless acquaintances of Liu Yao. Even the staff from several special departments were watching. In their eyes, this should have been a celebration for the Star Alliance country, Liu Yao facing public humiliation for 3 consecutive days. But no one expected the situation to take such a turn. Li Lei covered her mouth in disbelief, thinking she was dreaming again, and had to pinch herself hard. Who knows how many had similar reactions? People couldn't understand what they were seeing. But Li Lei suddenly gasped as she saw 3 Apache-armed helicopters appear on the screen. Then the director switched to a view of countless tanks and armored vehicles. Heavy firepower reinforcements had arrived. Chapter 346. Kung Fu? Seeing everything that was happening live, netizens around the world were in a state of shock and bewilderment, still unable to believe it. For a while, the internet was full of astonishment and questions. But quickly, everyone's attention returned to the live stream because the Star Alliance nation's military's heavy weaponry support had arrived. At this moment, the people of Blue Star had various ways of watching the live stream. Some through major video websites, others through live broadcasts by internet celebrities. Their footage might not be as clear as that from drones, but the first-person perspective adds a unique thrill. Regardless of whether it's domestic or international, these internet celebrities would do anything for views. With the situation on site turning out like this, they still hadn't fled and were continuing to broadcast live with their equipment. "Guys, this is Beth. I'm right at the scene. My god, it's just unbelievable. That mutant seems to be made of steel, bullets are completely useless." A spicy hostess with a nose ring aimed her phone at the armed helicopters howling past in the sky. "So the military has deployed helicopters and tanks." After saying this, she aimed her phone at the road, where 5 M1A2 tanks rushed past, shaking the ground beneath them. Close behind were M2 Bradley fighting vehicles and Humvee jeeps, coordinating in battle. Soldiers with grim faces sat on the vehicles, looking fiercer, each carrying heavy weapons like recoilless guns. The spicy hostess aimed the camera at her face, her eyes wide with excitement. "There's going to be a war here. A real war. I won't leave, I'll stay and bring you the most exciting live coverage." Like her, countless other attention-seeking internet celebrities and hosts were filming the heavy weaponry, their expressions more exaggerated than the next. Afterward, he switched the view to that of a TV station's live broadcast. Leaders of various major countries began to watch clearer footage taken by military drones, conducting a detailed assessment of the situation. As the capital of a nation, the military support arrived very quickly, with 3 Apache armed helicopters arriving swiftly. Liu Yao was heading in the direction of Lincoln Park to find Janice and retrieve his nuclear weapon when they inevitably crossed paths. At the same time, he sensed that on the roofs of the surrounding buildings, many ordinary people were excitedly live-streaming with their filming equipment. Really not afraid of death? Before he could reflect on that, the Apache armed helicopter's 30mm chain guns fired first. The muzzle flashed, casing of cannonballs the size of soda bottles scattered in the air, with terrifying shells whistling towards him. But they only futilely struck the ground. Liu Yao unfolded his evasion technique, moving at a speed of 60 meters per second, leaving behind a trail of exploding craters. Along the way, whether it was cars, street lights, or trees, nothing could stop the armor-piercing exploding shells, all turning into debris flying in all directions. The helicopters poured down fire, blowing up several cars, with roaring flames and thick smoke rising into the sky. Liu Yao used this cover to dash to the helicopter's blind spot and pulled a street light pole from the ground. He straightened it, aimed and locked onto the target with spirit-refining state, exhaled and threw it with all his might like a javelin. At this moment, the armed helicopters were only a little more than 200 meters from the ground. Normally, this combat distance wouldn't be a problem, but now it became fatal. The street light pole, with a terrifying whistling sound, shot towards one of the Apaches and pierced it. "Mayday! Mayday!" The pilot yelled in panic for help, but he couldn't prevent the severely damaged helicopter from crashing to the ground, turning into a ball of fire and smoke billowing into the air. The remaining 2 helicopters quickly reacquired Liu Yao's position, and, in a panic, didn't hesitate to unleash a barrage of rocket fire. A barrage of dozens of rockets blasted out from their launchers like coals in a honeycomb, raining destruction and turning the street into a sea of fire. The area was filled with thick smoke and flames, blurring the view, and no one knew what had become of Liu Yao. At this moment in Xia country, Li Lei's palms were all sweaty, her body taut with tension, but she soon let out a long sigh of relief. The 2 armed helicopters climbed another 100 meters, desperately searching for their target through the thick smoke and fierce flames. Just then, the pilot suddenly spotted a familiar figure on the rooftop of the high-rise building below. Liu Yao activated the Eve Dragon stake, climbing up to the rooftop of the office building at breakneck speed like a gecko, then squatting down to gather energy before launching star-plucking body. He left a radial shallow crater on the rooftop, and like a cannonball, he shot up into the sky, closing in on the helicopter in the blink of an eye. "Oh my god," he jumped up. "Dodge quickly." The pilot hurriedly pulled the control stick to evade, but it was already too late. Liu Yao bent his right arm inward, drawing a circle, and then suddenly thrust out his palm, exploding with a burst of white airwaves. It was none other than Dragon Subduing Palm, Regret of the Dragon. Stay updated with my virtual library empire. This move was fierce and unparalleled. The helicopter got hit and shattered like broken glass, disintegrating in midair, followed by a horrific explosion. And witnessing this scene, countless people exclaimed in shock. "Kung Fu! Was that a palm technique? He just used a palm technique, right? Look, all his movements, including the jumping posture just now, were methodical. Obviously, it's a scientific method of exerting force. It was clear that the Kung Fu Liu Yao displayed was not just brute strength, even foreigners recognized it as Kung Fu. After he landed, there was a sedan by his side. He intended to grab it and use it as a projectile to take down the last helicopter, but instead, the craft flew away without looking back. At that moment, the Apache pilot was frantically shouting over the channel. Requesting retreat! Requesting retreat! That's a monster! Meanwhile, inside the Star Alliance's Joint Forces Command, the highest commander Jackson firmly responded. Request denied. Return to the combat zone and cooperate with the armored forces to eliminate the enemy. God bless the Star Alliance nation. Seeing the armed helicopter making a getaway, Liu Yao was about to continue his journey when he suddenly heard a panicked cry for help. Turning his head, he saw that a rocket fired by the helicopter had mistakenly hit a building on the street side. The civilians had already been evacuated, but some daredevil internet celebrity was live streaming from the rooftop. At this moment, the entire building was about to collapse from the explosion and had caught a huge fire, with the streamer trapped and unable to escape. Even at this time, the person was still live streaming. This is Beth, oh God, I'm going to die. Please tell my mom I love her. The flames are coming up. Ah! The mutant has jumped up. Ah! He's got me. Liu Yao leaped several times and quickly reached the top of the 10-story building, picking up the nose ring wearing hot girl like a kitten, and then with her screaming in terror, he suddenly jumped down. After rapidly descending, they were about to smash into the ground when Liu Yao suddenly used control chi to buffer the fall, landing gently at the last moment. The streamer named Beth, having experienced a 100% real freefall ride, nearly peed herself. After landing, she kept screaming for a while, but Liu Yao had already turned and left. When Beth finally came to her senses and looked at her live stream, she saw the number of viewers. 1 million. She screamed again, this time in excitement. Chapter 347. Blood battle in all directions. The Star Alliance nation placed great emphasis on this public trial and held a live reporter conference not far from the Supreme Court, where officials and legislators took the stage one after another to harvest political capital through speeches. The elegant and charismatic agent Janice was tasked with answering questions from international journalists on the spot. Everything had been going exceptionally smoothly. As the commander who personally executed the capture, Janice answered an endless stream of incisive questions with composure. That is until the sound of disturbance faintly traveled from afar, accompanied by the panicked rush of a crowd running towards them. Those present quickly learned the cause of the commotion, displaying looks of surprise as they opened the live broadcast, and Janice too pulled out her phone to start watching. After witnessing an unbelievable scene, her pupils contracted, but her face remained expressionless as she confidently stated from the podium. There has been a minor disturbance, which I believe the military on site will quickly resolve. No sooner had she finished speaking than the sight of the retreating National Guardsmen appeared before everyone. The venue erupted into noise, with panic slowly spreading, but thankfully the roar of 3 armed helicopters passing overhead stabilized the crowd's nerves. Agent Janice waited quietly with a professional smile on her face, only to see Liu Yao shoot down the first helicopter with a street light pole on the live broadcast. And when he shattered the second one with a palm strike in mid-air and the third one fled in haste, chaos immediately erupted at the scene. Officials and dignitaries started fleeing with the help of security personnel, and the press became restless, with the more faint-hearted silently departing. As Liu Yao was clearly heading their way, the order at the site descended into complete turmoil, with everyone scrambling to escape. One must remember, this place was only a 10-minute drive from the Supreme Court of the Star Alliance nation. But as they ran, people gradually slowed their pace, for the live broadcast now showed Liu Yao rescuing people. This mutant is not a madman. He doesn't butcher civilians. He didn't kill the soldiers who surrendered. Some bold journalists began to think, could they possibly interview him for more explosive news? In the age of the internet, traffic is equally valuable to media. Being able to interview Liu Yao would certainly make one world famous and exponentially increase their worth. People can be ruthless in their pursuit of fame and fortune, and countless individuals have already planned to do just that. But Janice was well aware that Liu Yao was definitely coming for her. Without looking back, she leapt into her Chevrolet, the tires spun rapidly, kicking up a cloud of dust as she sped away. Only upon sitting in the car did Janice's composure break, as she pounded the steering wheel in a frenzy, cursing, "Fuck! Fuck!" She struggled to accept how quickly the situation, once in her favor, had taken such a drastic turn. But as an agent, she briefly vented before quickly regaining her composure. Checking internal communications, the entire capital was already undergoing emergency evacuation, with the president having retreated to a nuclear bunker. It was then that her car's radio suddenly transmitted a message. "Agent Janice, this is Jackson from Joint Forces Command. The target individual is pursuing you at high speed." Janice looked in the rearview mirror to see, indeed, a figure chasing after her with speed impossible for a human. At that moment, military UAVs were hovering in the sky, tracking the road as algorithms calculated the speeds of both. Janice's car was at 105 km per hour, while Liu Yao's astonishing speed was 200. The distance between them closed rapidly. "Agent Janice, escape following this route and lead the target into the armored unit's ambush." The car's navigation system instantly plotted a course, and Janice floored the accelerator, shooting off down the road. The two began a frenzied chase on the highway, and once Liu Yao closed the distance to within 100 meters, he suddenly activated star-plucking body. The ground cracked like a spider web beneath his feet as he broke through the air and instantly accelerated to 500 km per hour, catching up to the car in the blink of an eye. In Janice's look of horror, Liu Yao collided with the vehicle. The Chevrolet SUV immediately lost control, somersaulting countless times before crashing through a metal guardrail on the side of the road and being stopped by a large tree. The entire vehicle was deformed, with smoke slowly rising from the hood. The car had been modified for safety and performed exceptionally well. Janice, wrapped in airbags, was dizzy but uninjured. Liu Yao casually tore off the entire car door and carried out the female agent like a little chick. Janice drew her pistol and fired incessantly at Liu Yao's head with sparks flying amid the gunfire, but the bullets were completely ineffective. The female agent witnessed the reality of her nightmare but could only scream, "You monster! Devil!" Liu Yao asked calmly, "Where is my nuclear warhead?" "Go to hell." Janice, rather die than comply, kicked and struggled desperately, like a kitten showing its claws in the grip of a human. Liu Yao was about to take some action, but he suddenly sensed something and slightly tilted his head. A dark shadow with a terrifying whistle grazed his nose, cutting off a few strands of Janice's blonde hair before effortlessly snapping a large, purple-leaf tree as thick as a thigh behind them and disappearing without a trace. It turned out to be a 120 mm cannonball, and 5 M1A2 main battle tanks had already encircled them from afar. Several Apache helicopters hovered overhead, and Delta Special Forces rapidly deployed on the rooftops of buildings via rope descent. "I'll talk to you in detail later." Liu Yao picked up a broken metal railing, and with both hands, bent it into a collar to lock around Janice's neck, tethering her to the wreckage of the car. He then turned his attention to the armored troops. At this moment, Liu Yao was in a city park measuring 300 meters long and 120 meters wide, surrounded by innumerable high-rise buildings. The 5 M1A2 tanks slowly advanced, joined by numerous Humvees mounted with Browning machine guns and M2 Bradley fighting vehicles cooperating in combat. Together with the special forces atop the buildings, the firepower was far stronger than any enemy he had encountered before. And there was more. The Apaches that had previously fled had returned with 2 more in tow, unleashing barrages of gunfire from above. In an instant, tanks, helicopters, and heavy machine guns opened fire all at once, as a rainstorm of various caliber cannonballs and large caliber bullets poured down. Deafening explosions and flashes of fire filled the sky, turning the park into scorched earth in a moment. The whole world saw the spectacle at the capital of the Star Alliance with such a commotion that even the president, hiding in his bunker, heard it loud and clear. Find exclusive stories on my virtual library Empire. This was a full-scale military conflict. Liu Yao activated Eve Dragon Stake to dodge at high speed, blinking across multiple positions in the blink of an eye, weaving through the barrage of bullets and shells. Countless deadly cannonballs pursued him closely, with explosions erupting in his wake and powerful shockwaves brushing his face, a thrilling sensation. At this point, the park was so devastated that it was unrecognizable, someone could have mistaken it for Mars. With the distance between them reduced to 500 meters, it was time to counterattack. Liu Yao casually pulled out a lamppost and launched himself forward using star-plucking body. With no audience to gasp, he broke through the air in front and flew at a speed exceeding 500 km per hour like a cannonball. The lamppost twirled, readying for the blood battle in all directions. Chapter 348. Pull and drag forcefully. At this moment, the scene where Liu Yao was engaged in fierce combat with the army was being watched intently by the world's superpowers. They had too many questions and curiosities about the first mutant or Superman to emerge on Blue Star. But when they saw Liu Yao charging towards the armored troops with a street lamp post, the faces of many think tanks and politicians revealed indescribable expressions, exceptionally vivid. Within a defensive position constructed mainly of Humvees, more than a dozen Browning machine guns were firing frantically, with spent casings littering the ground. .50 caliber bullets, hot out of the barrel, formed continuous lines of fire in the air, chasing after Liu Yao. There were also soldiers with recoilless rifles firing one cannonball after another. In the midst of joyful gunfire, suddenly someone screamed in alarm, "God! He's rushing over!" With an air-cleaving howl resonating, Liu Yao quickly twisted into a blur of a shadow, approaching like lightning. His movements were so fast that no one could see clearly, not even the tank turrets knew where to turn. Everyone just felt a blink, and the opponent had already disappeared, only realizing what happened when he was already in their face. Enjoy new stories from my virtual library empire. The soldiers in the defensive position panicked, grabbing their weapons to struggle in a last-ditch defense, while Liu Yao, wielding the street lamp post, performed blood battle in all directions. The street lamp post quivered and turned into a soaring black dragon, with dark shadows engulfing the enemy from all directions. In an instant, the soldiers didn't even have time to cry out before being beaten into all sorts of strange shapes, juice and splatter flying out like swatted flies. This scene once again sparked a flurry of comments. Isn't this just the ancient Great Lance technique? No mistake, someone has already played it back in slow motion. Including all the moves he's made before, what he's executing is a systematic form of martial arts. Spiritual energy is about to revive. I'm 28 this year, is there still time to start training in martial arts? Liu Yao was unaware of how much he had blown up at the moment, having just cleared this fortification before immediately turning his head again. A tank shell, whistling with terror, grazed past his ear, while the helicopter above had already aimed at this spot, ready to open fire. Liu Yao hurriedly threw the street lamp post he was holding like a javelin. The pilot instinctively pulled the control stick to evade. The street lamp post grazed the helicopter's belly, sparking a trail of sparks. As the pilot was feeling relieved that the helicopter was undamaged, Liu Yao had already performed 3 lightning-fast actions. He hung a bag armed with hand grenades on himself, grabbed a recoilless rifle and slung it on his back. Finally, he forcefully tore off a .50 caliber machine gun from a Humvee and lifted it up. "It's really nostalgic," he said. Liu Yao pulled the trigger, and amidst the tremendous noise, the heavy machine gun fired ferociously. He was familiar with the firearm in hand, which had once achieved great merit. Unfortunately, as the enemies he encountered became more and more formidable, he hadn't played with it for a long time. The first thing he needed to deal with were the 3 armed helicopters. Flying high above with an excellent field of vision, they were the only weapons in the field that could quickly lock onto him. Liu Yao didn't directly attack the well-protected cockpit but targeted the tail rotor of the Apache instead. Assisted by the spirit refining state, his aim remained precise. The .50 caliber bullets whistled out, completely blasting off the Apache's tail rotor. Without it, the helicopter began to shake violently in the sky before spiraling down and crashing into a skyscraper. Countless shards of glass fell from the sky, glittering in the midday sun. Then came a boom as a fireball and thick smoke rose into the air, and the helicopter exploded. Even carrying a machine gun that weighed over 50 kilograms, Liu Yao's movement speed didn't diminish in the slightest, agilely evading various cannonballs and rockets while withstanding bullets. He repeated the process and took down another helicopter, which crashed onto the rooftop of a tall building. There were originally many special forces rappelling on top, which led to horrific casualties after the explosion. At this moment, only one helicopter remained. Liu Yao was about to deal with it, but coincidentally, it was the very one that had escaped earlier. True to its old habits, it took off in a cloud of smoke once again. Liu Yao shrugged his shoulders and turned his gun towards the other enemies, opening fire. Originally, many Delta Force troopers on the rooftop were harassing with anti-material sniper rifles, recoilless rifles, and other weapons. Liu Yao suppressed them with a sweep of his gun. Wherever the muzzle pointed, a heap of burst tomatoes appeared. After a round of exchange fire, no one dared to rise again. Hundreds of soldiers were suppressed by him alone, too scared to show their heads. While firing, Liu Yao was charging towards the tanks, ready to deal with these big fellows. The tanks were too cumbersome and were not designed to deal with nimble individual targets. Facing Liu Yao's rapid charge, they were powerless. The gunner simply could not lock onto the target, firing wildly in panic, and was already in close quarters. Originally, a soldier was operating the machine gun on the turret, but upon seeing Liu Yao approaching, he recoiled in fear, shutting and firmly locking the hatch. Leaping over 50 meters, Liu Yao jumped onto the tank and then forcefully pulled open the hatch with both hands. Amidst the grating sound of metal being torn, the hatch was slowly being pried open. The other 4 tanks hesitated for a moment, not daring to fire. The main gun's accuracy was not as high as imagined, and firing was likely to kill their teammate. But the other soldiers weren't idle. Various types of gunfire were frenetically directed at Liu Yao. This time, Liu Yao's ability to withstand hits was clearly demonstrated for all to see. Small caliber bullets were completely ineffective, only leaving behind a slight scratch at most. .50 bullets, which could blow up a regular person, only caused minor injuries. They managed to barely penetrate the epidermis, then were repelled by the muscle fibers. Only the M2 infantry fighting vehicle's 25mm cannon had enough firepower, with an armor-piercing round whistling toward him. Liu Yao circulated his true chi and actively deployed Dragon Roar Golden Bell Shield. This divine skill could greatly enhance one's defensive capabilities, and when actively used, its power was even more formidable. With the boost of innate true chi, Liu Yao's body was tougher than the hardest alloy. The 25mm armor-piercing round hit his chest, igniting in a dazzling explosion. When the dust cleared, he was unscathed, only a myriad of fine cracks like delicate porcelain appeared on his chest. The next second, Liu Yao had successfully pried open the hatch, took out 2 grenades, pulled the pins and threw them in, then politely closed the hatch again. Panicked screams came from inside the tank, followed by a muffled explosion, then silence. Faint smoke drifted from the seams. Meanwhile, the various wounds on Liu Yao's body were visibly healing at a rapid pace. Witnessing this scene, some were overjoyed, others were incredibly astonished, and a few had their complexions worsen greatly. Next, Liu Yao replicated the same tactics and approached the second tank with star plucking. Leveraging divine sense perception and extreme speed, the enemy's cannonballs could only chase after him, eating dust. This time, the tank knew what he was up to, reversing crazily while firing back desperately. Not just the machine gun mounted on the turret, the tank commander also popped his head out from the hatch of the driver's compartment, holding an M249 and shouting as he fired. "Come on, you monster! Come on!" Unfortunately, bravado couldn't make up for the disparity in strength. Liu Yao leaped onto the tank and slapped the commander back inside, thankful for the voluntarily opened hatch that spared him the effort of prying. Taking out 2 grenades, he tossed them in, turned around with flare, and left. After a muffled boom, another tank was done for. The remaining tanks and infantry fighting vehicles quickly reversed to increase the distance. Inside the Joint Forces Command Center, Commander Jackson urgently ordered. "Warthogs, you have been granted all authorizations. Fire at will." Chapter 349. Lost and Found Again. "Hey guys, Beth here." At this moment, the edgy host with a nose ring was squatting in a sewer, lifting the manhole cover just enough to poke out her phone for a live stream. In the distance was the raging battle, a vista filled with firelight, thick smoke, and explosions. Compared to drone-filmed videos, her live stream was much closer, which made it all the more dedicated. Thanks to Liu Yao's miraculous rescue, Beth's fans had easily breezed past the 1,000,000 mark. But she wasn't satisfied with that and continued her perilous live streaming activities. Now, being extremely close to the battlefield, the tremors from the explosions could be clearly felt through the live stream. If she got hit by a stray cannonball, she would certainly be done for. Oh my god! He just ripped open the hatch of a tank. Oh, he's been hit by so many rounds. Fortunately, he's okay. The intense and thrilling combat, accompanied by Beth's commentary, had her channel's viewers on an emotional roller coaster. However, what's interesting is that while initially 99% of the people online called Liu Yao a terrorist, now, many had started calling him Superman, and the earlier unanimous slander and opposition had ceased. And in Beth's live stream, there gathered a crowd that thought Liu Yao was cool. At this moment, the battle was still going on, and the commentary didn't stop. "Look! He just threw a car. Liu Yao was seen kicking a car at the side of the road, sending it flying dozens of meters through the air and smashing it into the face of an enemy. Many Star Alliance soldiers screamed as they retreated, firing wildly, but it was of no use aside from sending sparks flying everywhere. There were also soldiers firing their recoilless rifles at ultra-close range. Unfortunately, this subsonic weapon's initial velocity was only 250 meters per second, which was far too slow for an innate martial artist like Liu Yao, who could easily dodge them all with slight body movements. Sometimes, when he was too lazy to dodge, he'd just raise his arm for a precise block, deflecting the cannonballs. Others tried using grenade launchers, but Liu Yao would catch them in mid-air and hurl them back, causing his opponents to tumble from the explosions. The morale of the Star Alliance soldiers collapsed. They frantically discarded their useless junk equipment and ran off without looking back. Liu Yao picked up 2 recoilless rifles and started dealing with the biggest threats. The M2 infantry fighting vehicles. This type of lightweight armored vehicle, designed to coordinate with tanks, was extremely agile. Its 25mm machine gun had a firing rate of 200 rounds per minute, which was much harder to dodge than the single-fire cannonballs of tanks. Most of the true chi Liu Yao exhausted was used to fend off their attacks. Now, carrying several recoilless rifles, he leaped onto an M2 infantry fighting vehicle and delivered a direct hit to the roof with one shot. A thud resonated, and a puff of smoke erupted from the rear of the recoilless rifle. An armor-piercing projectile the size of a forearm instantly penetrated the thin armor on the top of the vehicle. The high-temperature and high-pressure metal jet poured into the vehicle, igniting its ammunition, resulting in a catastrophic explosion. It turned into a flame tank in an instant. Liu Yao discarded the empty tube, pushed hard with his feet, and with a roar that tore through the air and shook the ground, leaped onto another vehicle. Amid the frantic screams, he repeated the process, giving birth to another flame tank, even blowing off the turret. With the enemy's armored vehicles being successively destroyed, when Liu Yao leaped onto the last tank, the hatch suddenly opened. The tank commander stood up with hands raised high, stammering repeatedly, "We surrender, we surrender." Liu Yao put away the recoilless rifle and, with a bound, swiftly left the scene. Now, wreckage of vehicles lay scattered around, buildings nearby were seriously damaged, and the air was filled with gunpowder smoke and black ash. A veil of dark fog enveloped the entire battlefield. The armored forces of the Star Alliance country had suffered heavy losses and had already begun to retreat. Liu Yao didn't pursue but instead looked up at the sky. Even without activating Heavenly Eye, he could feel the overwhelming power of faith converging like a vast ocean. This was the spirit of billions of people from Blue Star. In comparison, the tens of millions of faith power gathered by the Empress Dowager seemed as laughable as a tiny water pipe. At this moment, public opinion on Blue Star had completely exploded. When things first started, countless people were dumbfounded, unable to believe their eyes, and even doubted if they were dreaming. The world has always been about physics and science. What was this Superman who was impervious to gunfire? And having witnessed this spectacle with their own eyes, no one cared about the so-called public trial anymore. Everyone rushed online to express their amazement. This is unscientific. How could Blue Star possibly have a Superman? He's not a Superman. Look at his movements and posture. It's obviously systematic cultivation. The way he dodged those cannonballs was so cool, just like the protagonist of The Matrix. Look quick, he's going to interrogate that female spokesperson now. After the military retreated, Liu Yao approached Janice. Thanks to the bulletproof car she used as cover, she wasn't killed by the random gunfire, and at the moment, she was still trying, hopelessly, to break the metal collar off her neck. Unfortunately, this was completely in vain. She might have had a sliver of hope if she had the strength of an adult brown bear. Seeing Liu Yao coming, Janice said coldly, "Don't delude yourself, I won't tell you anything." "That's not certain." Liu Yao infused his voice with mind force, hypnotizing her. "Where is my nuclear bomb?" A hint of confusion appeared in Janice's green eyes, but it quickly turned firm as she scoffed. "You're trying to hypnotize me? A specially trained agent? You must be dreaming." She was not wrong. Such things are closely related to one's mental willpower. Liu Yao got serious, staring into Janice's eyes, unleashing the full power of his mind force, and asked again. "Where is my nuclear bomb? It belongs to me, and nobody else should even think about taking it." This time, Janice struggled violently, but soon her mental defenses were breached, and she became completely blank. At Andrew Air Force Base B-9 warehouse, about to be transported to a nuclear lab for disassembly and dilution into nuclear fuel. Good girl, that's right. It was very convenient to obtain information in the Network Society. Liu Yao could even look up the exact location of the Air Force base on Beidou. Then, Agent Janice suddenly woke up, shouting furiously, "What did you do to me?" Liu Yao shrugged nonchalantly, "I did what you guys always do. Brain control program. I have similar methods. How was it? Did you enjoy the experience?" Fully conscious yet having her will dominated caused terror to finally appear on Janice's normally calm face. If the initial hypnosis could still be understood by ordinary people, what followed was akin to mental dominance. And she knew. Liu Yao was merely seeking revenge for what happened to Sergi. At that moment, Liu Yao used his mind force to hypnotize and ask again, "Where is the backup data of the lab?" Janice's features twisted, her body convulsed violently, but she still resisted revealing anything. At this point, Liu Yao was still labeled a terrorist, with the Star Alliance country being seen as the side of justice. Although the public opinion had begun to shift after witnessing his terrifying power, overall, it still favored the Star Alliance country. But once the contents of this hard drive were made public, Liu Yao would truly become the Superman combating an evil nation. Janice couldn't allow that to happen. As an elite agent, she resisted the hypnotism of a spirit refinement expert with her willpower, even as blood flowed from her nose. But her consciousness was not very clear, and her eyes unconsciously glanced towards her Chevrolet. Liu Yao exclaimed with delight, "Such an important thing, and you actually brought it in your car." He walked over to the distorted car to search. It was clear that the vehicle had undergone many modifications, not only bulletproof but also equipped with an advanced onboard computer. The storage compartment had been turned into a high-tech safe that could only be opened if the fingerprint, iris, and voice all matched. Liu Yao yanked it out by force, and with a wrenching sound of tearing metal, he ripped it open. To his delight, the lost hard drive was right inside. Liu Yao grinned and took it out, carefully placing it in his pocket for safekeeping. Janice witnessed this scene and completely fell apart, wailing miserably. The data on the hard drive was very important, and typical agents had no clearance to handle it. Originally, she had planned to finish the press conference and personally hand it over to Colonel Reynolds. But now, it was all over. Chapter 350. 5-star good citizen. At this moment, although the live audience could not hear what Liu Yao and Janice were exchanging, it did not prevent them from making all sorts of speculations. This blonde woman, she's the Deputy Director of the Foreign Affairs Bureau's External Action Division, and also the head of their agents. Agent Janice. I remember the first time Liu Yao hijacked a plane, it was because of her plan, and this time it's because of her arrest. Don't forget, the Foreign Affairs Bureau also captured Liu Yao's only relative, his uncle's family. It seems there's been a vendetta between the two sides for a long time. Suddenly, conspiracy theories were rampant, and netizens believed there must be something fishy. At that time, someone said, Liu Yao seems to have flipped something out of the car, a hard drive. Those who watched the paid HD live broadcast captured a screenshot, and after further enhancement by online gurus, it was indeed found to be a hard drive. Suddenly, netizens around the world were extremely interested in the contents inside. However, a few top-level authorities in the Star Alliance country turned pale upon seeing this scene and immediately granted the Joint Task Force headquarters the authority to open fire at will. It must be known that this was happening within the capital city, where many powerful weapons were not authorized for use, but at that time, they could not care less. Even if they couldn't kill Liu Yao, they had to shatter the hard drive he carried. At this moment on Liu Yao's side, Agent Janice's eyes and nostrils were bleeding profusely, her thinking was not very clear, and she looked somewhat stunted. The human brain is incredibly intricate yet highly fragile, and suffering back-to-back defeats in mental defenses during fierce combat had already caused irreversible damage. Liu Yao grabbed her and rushed towards Andrew Air Force Base to retrieve his nuclear bomb. This woman's mind still held plenty of explosive information, perfect for an interrogation along the way. However, they had not gone far and were in a rather disordered street area when a deafening roar came from the sky. At that moment, inside the Joint Task Force headquarters, Commander Jackson was giving orders. The target is extremely dangerous, authorization is given to use weapons of mass destruction. Repeat, authorization is given to use weapons of mass destruction. Received, Commander. We have locked on the target. 3 A-10 attack aircraft formed a formation, roaring as they swiftly streaked across the sky. Arriving at the attack position, weapons ready, prepare to attack. Fire at will. The cannons of the 3 warplanes suddenly fired, unleashing trajectories of death. This was the Avenger Gatling gun, similar in appearance to the Fire God cannon used by Liu Yao, but with a larger caliber and greater power. The cannonballs were as big as beer bottles, and with a firing rate of an astonishing 4,200 rounds per minute, they were specially designed to combat tanks. The simultaneous gunfire from the 3 cannons was like a torrential downpour, the 30mm armor-piercing incendiary shells forming a terrifying red wave that easily crushed everything in its path. Half the street was pulverized, and the buildings were shattered like biscuits. Liu Yao leaped to the left side just in time to dodge this horrifying barrage. Before he could catch his breath, a Maverick air-to-ground missile detached from its wing mount and sped towards him relentlessly. These warplanes showed no consideration for Janice, who Liu Yao was holding in his hands. Liu Yao did not rush to dodge, knowing that the missile was capable of tracking. With the spirit refining state fully activated, the missile appeared extremely slow to him. Just before it was about to hit, he propelled himself off the ground, leaping nearly 100 meters in a bound. The missile futilely struck the ground, blasting a huge crater in the road and sending dirt, debris, and miscellaneous objects skyrocketing like fireworks. These objects turned into shrapnel, shooting around densely, and while Liu Yao himself was virtually unharmed, Janice, whom he was holding, was torn to pieces by friendly fire. Shrugging off her remains, Liu Yao didn't seem to care much. After all, for the female agent, it was merely a matter of dying sooner rather than later. And he didn't even have time to catch his breath before the second missile came. Liu Yao pushed off the ground, his figure leaving after images and a sound of tearing air as he zipped to another street in the blink of an eye. The missile struck a supermarket, instantly turning it into a sea of flames, but Liu Yao remained completely unharmed. Even though the mission briefing made it clear. The target was no ordinary person, the 3 pilots flying the A-10S couldn't help but cry out. What the fuck? What the hell is that? For the first time in their careers, they witnessed someone outrunning a missile on foot. Target not cleared, preparing to re-engage. The 3 fighter jets circled back, ready to launch another attack. But the street was already a ruin, with thick smoke billowing and flames reaching the sky. The fire control system temporarily lost track of the target. It was the military drones that first spotted Liu Yao, and the commander roared a warning, "He's right below you. Watch out!" There Liu Yao was, crouched down on the ground, seemingly busy with something. The 3 attack planes were not about to show mercy, they locked onto the target and, while diving for a strafing attack, fired their missiles. At that moment, his heart sent a continuous stream of energy throughout his body, the innate true qi strengthened his bones and muscles, causing a sound akin to metallic stretching and churning, as if springs were stretched to their limits. The next second, the star-plucking body was fully activated. Liu Yao suddenly exerted his strength, blasting a huge crater into the highway below. His body took on a perfect streamlined shape to reduce drag, while his legs turned the displaced air into a force lifting his body. Amidst the screeching noise, he shot up into the sky. And one of the A-10S in a dive suddenly realized, the target was now face to face with itself. God, this is impossible. He's flying at us. Help! The pilot yelled in panic, watching as Liu Yao rapidly approached and then fiercely pounced on the nose of the aircraft. The commander hurriedly shouted, "Eject! Eject now!" Liu Yao had already ripped open the cockpit cover, pulled out the pilot, and casually tossed him aside, letting him scream as he turned into a black dot disappearing from sight. Then Liu Yao himself settled into the cockpit, just like that, hijacking a plane. And it even had a convertible top. At this moment, the audience watching the live broadcast was in an uproar. Someone actually hijacked a fighter jet the way you'd steal a car in GTA. They even recalled that Liu Yao had stolen Star Alliance countries' fighter jets twice before, so he definitely knew how to fly one. Sure enough, the A-10 attack plane shook for a moment in the air before swiftly stabilizing. Such planes are designed for ground attacks and are not equipped for air defense, but in the hands of a spirit-refining master, anything is possible. There Liu Yao handled the fighter with even more agility and grace, abruptly flying above an allied plane. Amidst the noise like a drill piercing through a wall, the Avenger Gatling gun fired fiercely. One attack plane was blown up mid-air, turning into a ball of thick smoke and flames. The other attack plane, still not comprehending what had happened, fled in a blind panic. But Liu Yao, in full spirit refining state, locked onto it and the Gatling gun opened fire from a distance of 3 kilometers. The continuous stream of cannonballs precisely swept across the plane's body, and the opponent was then blasted in mid-air, parts scattering in all directions amid the violent explosion. As the last wisp of smoke cleared, calm returned to the sky, leaving the stunned viewers speechless for a long while. Liu Yao, controlling the A-10 attack aircraft, headed straight for Andrew Air Force Base at an even faster speed. This scenario completely exceeded the imagination of the Joint Forces commander, who hurriedly ordered the F-15s at the airbase to take off and intercept. In those few minutes, Liu Yao had already thoroughly familiarized himself with the A-10 attack plane's operation, flying it even more smoothly. 2 F-15s immediately took off, roaring towards him. Logically speaking, these fourth-generation fighter jets completely outperformed the A-10 in every aspect, and since the A-10 was specifically meant for ground attack, it shouldn't stand a chance in aerial combat. Who knows how many people were eagerly anticipating the drama that would unfold next. Chapter 351. Ace Combat. The cockpit canopy had been ripped off by Liu Yao himself, so he could only fly the convertible aircraft at a speed of 800 km per hour through the sky. The whistling airflow slapped coldly against his face, disheveling his hair. When he passed by a drone, Liu Yao even waved to say hello. Unfortunately, his leisure time ended quickly. As he was about to reach the Air Force Base, he was intercepted by 2 F-15s. The difference in the capabilities of the aircraft was enormous. Just in terms of speed, the F-15s were more than twice that of Liu Yao's A-10. Therefore, the two enemy planes confidently roared overhead, arrogantly hovering over Liu Yao's head. This was an absolute disparity in performance, one that piloting skills could not compensate for. Liu Yao rolled several times but couldn't shake them off. At this moment, the distance between them was very close, no more than 100 meters, as the F-15s fired dogfight missiles, with two short-range missiles detaching from their racks and shooting toward him. Liu Yao pulled on the control stick, and the A-10 sharply rolled to the side, narrowly evading them. But the enemy was relentless. Both F-15s opened fire with their cannons, the bright red tracer lines from the high-temperature cannonballs chasing right behind Liu Yao's tail, looking incredibly perilous. And the missiles had him locked again, preparing for a fatal strike. At this moment, the audience collectively held their breath, with both factions praying and cheering for their own. Li Lei and Sana, two young girls, had their fingers white-knuckled from gripping so tightly. But at this critical juncture, Liu Yao suddenly stood up in the open cockpit. Cannonballs, like a torrential downpour, whizzed by with a terrifying screech and high temperature, leaving bowl-sized holes in the wings as they passed. Spirit refining state fully activated, everything in the world moved at a snail's pace. The wind speed, air pressure, and every potential evasive maneuver of the fighter jets became clear as day to him. Liu Yao casually grabbed the recoilless rifle, hardly aiming before he fired. A fist-sized armor-piercing shot thudded out, hitting the face of the F-15 that was merrily strafing right on target. The enemy burst into a massive fireball and disintegrated in mid-air. But at the same time, the other aircraft had already launched an AIM-7 air-to-air missile. Liu Yao calmly pressed a button with his foot to release an infrared decoy flare, sending the missile off course. He then took out a second cannon from behind his back, lifting it to aim. The next second, another fist-sized armor-piercing shot thudded out, striking the engine at the tail of the enemy plane with precision. The last of the F-15s lost balance and tumbled chaotically through the sky before plummeting down, with the pilot ejecting at the last second. Liu Yao didn't bother with it and sat back down in the cockpit to continue forward. Such an unusual air battle astonishes countless people, but also demonstrates how tough Liu Yao is. No matter what modern weapons he gets his hands on, they become transformative. With the Star Alliance country suffering consecutive defeats, especially in full view of the world, a state of emergency was already initiated. At this moment, the military's suggestion was direct use of a W-80 nuclear bomb. The explosion of this 150 kiloton yield nuclear weapon, with a blast radius just over 1 kilometer, was sufficient to eradicate Liu Yao without causing too much damage. It sounded good, so the question arose. Who would give the order? This was about using a nuclear bomb in the nation's own territory, even in the capital. The person who gave the order could very likely face the consequences afterward, potentially falling from grace, facing imprisonment and infamy for ages. The stylishly coiffed president didn't want to, the chair and vice chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff didn't want to, and several generals shook their heads repeatedly, leaving the situation at an impasse. Meanwhile, as they dithered, Liu Yao had already arrived over his destination. Below him was Andrew Air Force Base. This was also the largest Air Force base Liu Yao had ever seen, covering only 17 square kilometers, with hundreds of aircraft of various sizes and models neatly parked. At this moment, his own plane was riddled with holes, smoke billowing from several places, and it was already locked on by anti-aircraft missiles. In the cockpit, the piercing alarm grew more and more urgent, signaling a shoot-down within 10 seconds. Liu Yao couldn't afford to waste time, he dove straight down, unleashing all the firepower on the attack plane. Air-to-ground missiles, aerial bombs, machine gun rounds. All fired off. In an instant, below was a sea of flames, rows of planes burst into glorious fireworks, flamboyantly stunning and colorful. Having done all that, at the very moment the Patriot anti-aircraft missile was about to hit, Liu Yao suddenly ejected from the plane. Behind him was a huge fireball from the mid-air explosion, and tiny fragments struck his back. He plummeted from the sky, only deploying Imperial Chi to cushion his landing when close to the ground, his immense kinetic energy plowing a deep furrow in the airport runway. B-9 hangar. Armed with the intelligence obtained from hypnotizing Janus, Liu Yao headed straight for where his nuclear bomb was located. At this moment, the airport, upon learning of his arrival, had urgently evacuated, leaving not a single person. That was just as well, the day's slaughter had been more than enough, and the continuous battles had given him a full understanding of his current strength. Nonetheless, Liu Yao didn't let his guard down, he kept the star key ready, prepared to open a door and save himself at any moment. While he was looking for the nuclear bomb, the Star Alliance country might well be considering using a nuclear strike against him, he needed to play it safe. Fortunately, aided by the spirit refining state, Liu Yao could react to an incoming nuclear bomb within at least 5 seconds. Enough time to open a door and escape, or to get away from the central area. Inside B-9 hangar rested a C-17 transport plane with Liu Yao's nuclear bomb already loaded inside its cargo hold. If he had arrived any later, who knows where it would have been taken. Currently, this Iron Alliance-made nuclear bomb lay quietly inside a metal box resembling a gas cylinder, featuring 2 keyholes and a row of timing buttons. He tried out the key Sergei had given him before his suicide, it fit perfectly. Liu Yao breathed a long sigh of relief, finally got my hands on it, and it wasn't easy. Gently patting the most terrifying weapon known to mankind, he placed it and the key into the space-time bubble. This 130-kilogram nuclear bomb consumed 2% of the star key's energy. With that, there was nothing to fear from Otherworld. Feeling quite pleased, Liu Yao left the Air Force Base, now ablaze with flames and billowing smoke. Next to the Air Force Base was a small town named George County, which had also been evacuated. Liu Yao took out the hard drive, connected it to his PDA, and began uploading the data to the internet. The data was enormous, a full 10 terabytes, clearly impossible to upload in its entirety. Liu Yao only uploaded the instances of experiments conducted on school children and evidence of the Star Alliance country developing an even more terrifying new virus. He sat atop the roof of a restaurant, patiently waiting for the data transfer to complete. The Star Alliance country had suffered a significant blow and realized that conventional forces were futile, surely brewing up some new tactics. But Liu Yao was not afraid. At that moment, the female anchor who wore an armband and whom he had once saved emerged from the sewer. She looked very bedraggled, and there was an unpleasant smell about her, but she excitedly said, "Mr. Liu Yao, my name is Beth, may I interview you for a moment? Why are you opposing the Star Alliance country?" Liu Yao smiled, at first it was a personal vendetta, but then it became about justice and fairness. "Is your power derived from the ancient Eastern cultivation system?" "You could say that." At that moment, the number of viewers in Beth's live stream skyrocketed to 10 million, and it was still rapidly increasing. Chapter 352, Speech is the weakest weapon. Hearing Liu Yao's response, Beth was ecstatic. The live streaming room was filled with dense barrage of comments, all frantically shouting for her to continue asking about cultivation. Seeing that she now had over 10 million viewers, Beth nearly fainted from excitement. For a broadcaster, this was massive fame and fortune, representing a leap across social strata. Braving the dangers to follow all the way, and being the first to rush out to interview Liu Yao, what she was seeking was fortune favors the bold. It was foreseeable that she would no longer be that impoverished person living in the lower class community, unable to pay even her rent. And all this was just because she ran up to have a few words with Liu Yao. Seeing that she was all right, confirming that Liu Yao truly wasn't a violent maniac. Other internet celebrities and reporters with all sorts of ideas also converged from all directions. More and more people gathered, several hundreds in number, completely surrounding the rooftop where Liu Yao was, leaving no room to pass through. The interviewers, holding various types of sound-gathering devices, kept asking, "How did you become a Superman? Was it because of cancer? Will you reconcile with the Star Alliance country?" This place became the scene of a major press conference on the spot. Some who were inclined towards the Star Alliance country boldly asked sharp questions. "Mr. Liu Yao, don't you think your actions qualify you as nothing but an outright hooligan? Based on relevant statistics, you've caused at least thousands of casualties and over $100 billion in losses." There were also media outlets dissatisfied with the Star Alliance country, like a reporter from today's Moscow TV, who shouted, "Mr. Liu Yao, what exactly has the Star Alliance country done to you? Apart from capturing your relatives, is there any other insider information?" The crowd erupted into an uproar. If it weren't for Liu Yao sitting on the rooftop, he would have already been submerged by the tide of people. He carelessly threw a punch that exploded in the air, emitting a thunderous boom that quelled the noisy clamor. Seeing that everyone had quieted down, Liu Yao spoke composedly. "I'll answer all at once. First of all, this is war. Although I don't harm civilians, I won't be merciful to enemies. Secondly, as to why I am targeting the Star Alliance country, that's a long story. In the beginning, the Foreign Affairs Bureau wanted from me a chemical formula that could refine ice crystal tablets without limit. Later on, they used the brain control project on my friend, defiling his mind and will. If these were merely personal grievances, then the Star Alliance country's development of the supervirus is undeniably an anti-human act." Upon hearing this, the journalists below erupted. At this moment, the data had just finished uploading. Liu Yao said, "I've uploaded some evidence on the internet, all of you better download it quick, who knows when it'll be gone." People quickly went to the website mentioned by Liu Yao to download, and those watching the live stream hastily did the same. The evidence only existed for less than a minute before it was deleted by hackers from the Star Alliance country. But never underestimate netizens' quick hands. There were tens of thousands of people on Blue Star who had made copies in advance. Even some of the single interviewers present had made backups. Liu Yao took out the hard drive that stored the detailed experimental data, saying, "The evidence all comes from within here. Let me clarify, I just want people to know what the Star Alliance country has done, not to accuse anything, or to cleanse myself. To me, words are the weakest weapon." Having said that, he casually tossed the hard drive into the crowd. This was explosive news, and the crowd plunged into a fierce scramble, immediately descending into chaos. From beginning to end, what Liu Yao trusted the most was strength, his own strength. He stood up and stretched lazily, casually saying, "Let's call it a day. I need to go cultivate. I hope the next time can be more fun for me." Seeing him about to leave, those who were fighting over the hard drive quickly regrouped around him. Desperately jostling and pushing each other, they frantically shouted their questions. "Mr. Liu Yao, did you just say you're going to cultivate? Are you really an ancient and mysterious Eastern cultivator? Can the Eastern cultivation system really turn people into supermen?" Liu Yao didn't say anything more and, with a burst of force that shattered the rooftop beneath him, disappeared after a few leaps. Meanwhile, the hard drive had been snatched by a journalist from today's Moscow TV. This individual was clearly more agile and robust, effortlessly obtaining the hard drive amidst the chaos. Gazing at Liu Yao's retreating figure, he murmured almost inaudibly, "Agent Anna sends her regards." Then he quickly fled with the hard drive. In the following days, the Star Alliance country spared no effort and scoured every inch of ground for 5 days but still could not locate Liu Yao, and they were forced to announce to the outside world, he had fled. The grand spectacle had thus come to an end, and the spectators exclaimed with satisfaction. According to estimates, Liu Yao had caused over $100 billion in property damage, as well as thousands of military casualties. But not a single civilian died, only a few who fell and injured themselves, most of whom were recklessly chasing fame on the internet. Yet the matter was far from over. The Star Alliance maintained control over the international public discourse, immediately set its powerful state machinery into motion, and positioned itself on the side of justice, vehemently condemning Liu Yao as an extremist terrorist. The president even gave an impassioned televised speech. "Today, our compatriots, our way of life, and the freedoms we cherish have been deliberately attacked by terrorists. Thousands have suddenly lost their precious lives to his criminal actions. We cannot believe the horrors before us, and we feel immense sorrow and anger. However, the terrorists' plot will not succeed. His attacks can shatter steel, but they cannot dent the determination of the people of the Star Alliance to defend their nation. We are the brightest, most brilliant beacon of freedom in the world, and no one can stop this light of freedom. The propaganda machine was in full swing, maliciously slandering Liu Yao, describing him as a natural freak and a murderous psychopath, an antisocial aberration. They even claimed that the Star Alliance was ready to face an unprecedented challenge, with countless powerful high-tech weapons poised for a strike, determined to make the mutant pay. Normally, under such a powerful propaganda campaign, even a saint would be smeared as a demon. But this time, the Star Alliance country did not succeed. Their adversary was not just any nation or ordinary human, but rather the first transcendent being to appear on Blue Star. For thousands of years, Blue Star had been a demon-extinguishing world where supermen or so-called mutants existed only in fantasy. Yet suddenly, a real individual appeared who could withstand bullets and go head-to-head with the military. Every place on Blue Star capable of charging a device was abuzz with discussions about him. Any news or video that included the words Liu Yao garnered no fewer than 10 million clicks. If there was any substantial content to it, reaching 100 million views was a breeze. Under these circumstances, the more the Star Alliance tried to smear Liu Yao, the more they just added to his fame. Countless people, filled with intense anticipation and curiosity, followed everything about Liu Yao, watching and rewatching videos of his battle with the military, carefully analyzing them frame by frame. Read latest stories on novelbin.com. Ignoring bullets, using a lamppost to pierce through armored helicopters, violently destroying tanks, leaping hundreds of meters high, a single man taking on the military. The stunning images of battle left viewers in awe, and many admired his strength and developed a worship-like sentiment for this powerful figure. Even citizens of the Star Alliance themselves began to worship him. The smear campaign had not had the intended effect. In fact, it might as well have been futile. The Star Alliance suddenly realized that their much-vaunted control over public opinion was powerless against Liu Yao. Even the social media platforms of the Star Alliance itself couldn't resist the tsunami-like traffic that Liu Yao brought with him, featuring related news about him on their home pages. Gradually, the evidence originally uploaded by Liu Yao began to ferment and spread. Chapter 353, Fermentation. The evidence that Liu Yao uploaded had been flying all over the place for a while but was continuously suppressed by the Star Alliance countries' control over public opinion. Anyone who dared to discuss it would have their account instantly banned, and some even had the FBI come knocking for a heart-to-heart. But secrets are hard to keep, especially when related to Liu Yao, which is a hot topic among the Blue Star populace. It is unknown how many people studied the contents and, after finishing, were left gaping in surprise, unable to believe that the Star Alliance country could commit such inhumane acts. Interestingly, foreigners still harbored some doubts, but the citizens of the Star Alliance country themselves had no such reservations. The Foreign Affairs Bureau's opium trade to fund its operations was an open secret, and previous scandals had been exposed involving collaboration with drug traffickers to kill anti-drug agents, and even promoting the opium planting industry in underdeveloped areas. As for the brain control projects, they have been well known since the 1970s. The experiments were halted repeatedly because of the victims' families organizing numerous large-scale protests and demonstrations. When it came to researching superviruses, the Star Alliance country not only set up countless biological laboratories overseas but was also scandalized for conducting human experiments on its own citizens, even on agents and the military. There used to be an experiment project called Human Guinea Pigs for testing various chemical agents and poisons developed by the military, using their own soldiers for live experiments. There are countless similar incidents, so in certain disaster science fiction films, the people of the Star Alliance are extremely distrustful of their government. This is not an exaggeration or fabrication but a rendition based on reality. Because the populace is sure their government indeed is capable of such utterly heartless acts. While the general public was still in doubt, the countries of Blue Star had already made up their minds. They didn't even need to see the data on the hard drive to be 100% certain of its authenticity, they were just helpless against the Star Alliance country. 13 aircraft carrier strike groups and thousands of nuclear warheads. That is the foundation of the Star Alliance country's impunity. Words are the weakest weapon, only one's own strength is the foundation. This is true for both Blue Star and Otherworld. However, thankfully, because of Liu Yao, it was quite easy to give the Star Alliance country a headache. Moscow had directly made the entire hard drive's materials public. Under normal circumstances, such an act would be meaningless and might even result in the Star Alliance country turning the tables. But Moscow had sent Agent Anna to make multiple appearances on the Today in Moscow TV show. Instead of discussing anything else, they just focused on talking about her interactions and joyous experiences with Liu Yao. In between, they also mentioned how Liu Yao had breached the Star Alliance Nation Biological Laboratory to obtain the data, and how the Foreign Affairs Bureau brainwashed Sergei and so forth. In summary, they couldn't go 3 sentences without bringing up Liu Yao, even specifically mentioning his formidable nature. Experience more tales on novelbin.com. At that moment, I was hanging in mid-air, terrified. Thankfully, Superman's physique indeed provided an indescribable, ultimate experience. It has to be said that the Today in Moscow TV station's approach was very effective. By mixing serious matters with Superman's gossip, the news spread instantly across all of Blue Star. Billions of people scrambled to read it, eagerly discussing it without getting tired. Even the Star Alliance country's own social media platforms couldn't resist the tsunami-like traffic that came with Liu Yao, placing the related news on the homepage. Gradually, many people began to believe. Things were not as the Star Alliance country claimed. It seemed that Liu Yao was the one on the side of justice. But with Agent Anna appearing on shows frequently to talk about gossip, some people were not pleased. Li Lei was one of them. The constant look of gloom and doom on her face had completely vanished, replaced by a glowing radiance. Only when I'm all alone do I feel like it's all a dream. That my lover is actually a Superman. There is nothing more fantastical than this. In fact, she was somewhat prepared, because in the past, when she was intimate with Liu Yao, he was indeed unnaturally strong. At this moment, the company's morning meeting is taking place. There are a few new faces in the company, looking particularly spirited and robust. Although it wasn't explicitly stated, Li Lei knew in her heart. These were people from the special departments. The affair between her and Liu Yao was not a secret in the eyes of those who were interested. But these individuals were all officially hired through proper channels and were genuinely committed to their work, seemingly with the intention of protecting Li Lei. She had no objections. After all, Liu Yao drew a lot of attention, and she might also encounter situations like kidnappings, so having professionals for protection was more than desirable. I just miss him a bit. At this time on Blue Star, Liu Yao had inadvertently fostered 2 emerging industries: scripture export and Xia language training. Anyone who was curious about how Liu Yao obtained superhuman powers, his posture and movements were full of the essence of ancient Xia country cultivation methods, which already provided a clear hint. As a result, all cultivation methods passed down in Xia country to this day, be it Buddhist, Taoist, martial arts, or the 5 animal frolics, became hot items in demand. Wealthy people spared no expense to buy original hardcover editions from Xia country to display prominently, showcasing their taste. Countless people studied tirelessly overnight, hoping to find a trace of the power of transcendence, including many great scientists. After all, with a living example right before their eyes, people couldn't help but believe. However, these individuals discovered that even after learning the Xia language, they still couldn't comprehend the various scriptures that contained elements of the 5 phases, the 8 trigrams, acupuncture meridians, and are even more profound and mysterious. But given the magnitude of the situation, they were determined to overcome any difficulties, so they gritted their teeth and carried on. Meanwhile, the Star Alliance nation was certainly not idle. At this moment, in a large conference room, the military was holding a meeting to discuss and study how to deal with Liu Yao. Colonel Reynolds was still in charge of leading the presentation. Nobody in the room wanted Liu Yao dead more than he did. He was certain Liu Yao would definitely not let him off the hook. Reynolds had thoroughly analyzed Liu Yao's combat videos frame by frame and was confident that he had a solution. Gentlemen, Liu Yao is not invincible, and the so-called Superman is just a myth. He's at most a normal person who has taken a small step ahead on the evolutionary path. I think genetic mutant is a more appropriate term, he said. While speaking, he brought up images on a big screen showing Liu Yao's epidermis being penetrated by .50 caliber bullets and injuries from Gatling gun cannonballs. Compared to missiles and rockets, the target fears dense and powerful individual strikes more. So modern military forces are not suited to dealing with genetic mutants. We were caught off guard, but fortunately, learning from our mistakes is what humanity does best. With that, Colonel Reynolds displayed several drawings of peculiar mechanical structures. These are new unmanned combat vehicles and drones, equipped with large-caliber Gatling guns. They are operated entirely by an electronic fire control system, somewhat similar to a close-in weapon system. They feature quick reaction times, high reliability, and high precision in targeting. They can intercept fast-moving missiles, so naturally, they can easily take down genetic mutants whose speed is far inferior. All the major powers on Blue Star were developing unmanned equipment, including drones, unmanned combat vehicles, and unmanned tanks. And Colonel Reynolds' intention was to use this kind of equipment, coupled with a powerful automatic fire control system, to deal with Liu Yao. To kill him, even if we only obtain a piece of flesh and blood, we will master the code of evolution. Chapter 354, Two Women Visit. The other world had entered autumn. Morning light draped in a gauzy mist wove through the treetops, lingering on the multicolored veins of each leaf. But such a beautiful scene failed to captivate Li Pei, Liao Ye, and Liao Qi. It was quite normal for an innate grandmaster to have a three-digit number of wives and concubines. Even if one had no desire for it, countless powers would eagerly present beauties for favor and affiliation. Currently, two beautiful women were waiting for Liu Yao's return. One woman, dressed in a white gown, had eyebrows like emerald feathers and skin as pure as snow. She stood poised on a wutong tree, as clean and white as a cloud. But she wore no shoes. Under the hem of her white dress, the tender pink of her bare feet could be faintly seen. Such barefoot attire was too scandalous for the other world, offensive even to Li Pei, who, influenced by Western ideas and possessing the most open mind, couldn't accept it. Li Pei, with a wary expression, whispered, "That's Yun Qinglan, the current holy maiden of the joyful sect with her pure and unsullied appearance, her brow still unblemished, it seems she's still a virgin." Liao Qi gasped softly, wrapped up so tight, yet barefoot. Li Pei frowned, showing distaste, "She appears pure but is actually promiscuous. If such a vixen enters our doors, don't expect any peace in the future." Liao Qi said with concern, "They say she's here to seek Liu Yao's help with massage, I hope it doesn't end up with them rolling in bed." While the two whispered among themselves, Liao Ya's gaze had turned elsewhere. She saw a woman with a very pleasant appearance, like a lotus emerging from water, playing the zither beneath a pavilion, her loose daoist robe unable to conceal her voluptuous figure. Liao Ya said helplessly, "Even the Wudang sect has sent someone." Zhang He really did. All three women sighed simultaneously. This graceful daoist priestess was a personal disciple of the Wudang sect leader. At 18 she had completed the blood exchange and spirit refining oblivion. She had come to deliver a letter from Zhang He. "Are daoist priestesses also free to seek men? The Wudang sect does not forbid marriage. Liu Yao, that lecher, will surely not resist the priestess's temptation." Unbeknownst to the three would-be sisters engrossed in their discussion, the holy maiden Yun Qinglan was secretly observing them as well. Technique of observing beauty, the joyful sect was second to none in this art. Yun Qinglan first looked at Liao Ye, full and exquisite, her demeanor stable and dignified, she has the air of a cultured lady, radiant without being demonic. Liao Ye's orchid fragrance physique wasn't something detectable by mere sight, and Yun Qinglan knew nothing about it. She then turned to look at Liao Qi. Full hips, a voice delicate and pleasing, eyes brimming with springtime waves. Finally, her gaze landed on Li Pei, and midway, her expression revealed astonishment, such luscious and voluptuous beauty. Wow, this royal lady is something else. After looking them over, Yun Qinglan quietly strategized. Liu Yao's three women are each ravishing in their own way. Having been spoiled by such beauty is troublesome. It's a pity I don't possess the orchid fragrance physique, the ecstatic heavenly demon dance wouldn't have enough impact. The three girls, unaware that they were being critiqued, huddled together to strategize. This is bad, the women coming to our doors are becoming more challenging to deal with. Li Pei, squinting, said, "What do you think about the plan I mentioned earlier? If we unite and gang up, 3 against 1, we can make him weak at the knees whenever he sees a woman." The Liao sisters shook their heads in unison. No, that's too embarrassing, we can't do it." The sisters had been brought up with a strict upbringing, with upright principles, unlike Li Pei who, being from the royal family, had seen much and could be more unrestrained. Li Pei lamented their lack of initiative and said helplessly, "Do you think I'm not shy about it? Sai, then just wait for a few more sisters to join us. It might be days or even weeks before you can have a good time with Liu Yao." The sisters looked at the holy maiden outside the garden, then at the stunning Daoist priestess in the pavilion, their faces filled with worry. At that moment, a piercing cry came from the sky as 3 spiritual sparrowhawks descended with overpowering momentum. Their screeching voices brought them to the ground in a blink of an eye. It turned out that Liu Yao had returned. The spiritual sparrowhawks eagerly vied to please their master, rubbing their heads and necks against him. "You've grown again, hey!" Liu Yao indulged the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks, noticing that they had grown another size larger. The 3 girls hurried over to greet him, with Liao Qi even throwing herself directly into her beloved's arms. "Why were you gone for so long?" Liu Yao laughed. "Got tied up with some matters, but fortunately, the outcome was good, and the gains were substantial." "Oh, do we have a visitor?" From a distance, the sound of the zither in the pavilion stopped, and a beautiful female crown approached, bowing with a greeting. "Grandmaster Liu is well, I presume?" Bai Liu from Wudang presents her respects. "I am here to deliver a message by the orders of Uncle Master Zhou." Having spoken, she respectfully handed over a peculiar letter. It was a palm-sized white paper crane. As soon as Liu Yao took it in his hand, the immortal crane actually began to speak. "Young friend Liu, I am Zhou He. This is the item I've imbued with my mind resonance." "Daoist Zhou? Ha, spirit refinement and out-of-body technique sure are interesting." This being akin to a duplicate greatly intrigued Liu Yao, and even the 3 girls gathered around with interest. "I've really missed you since we parted last time. My realm has now stabilized, so if you find the time, you're welcome to gather in Imperial City." "Daoist Zhou, you're in Imperial City? I thought you were at Mount Wudang. My senior brother aspires to become a state preceptor, so I thought I'd join him in this endeavor." "I see, we'll visit in a couple of days then." The title State Preceptor is an honorary decree from the Imperial Court, granted the authority to collect the faith and prayers in the name of the government. With the support of an entire nation, breaking through to divine manifestation is much quicker than cultivating by oneself gradually. As they were chatting away merrily, Bai Liu stood aside, listening in astonishment. Why is Uncle Master Zhou telling this man everything? After stabilizing his realm, the first thing Zhou He did was have Bai Liu deliver the paper crane imbued with his mind. This was enough to indicate a close relationship. But as she listened to their conversation, the relationship seemed even closer than she had anticipated. Bai Liu covertly appraised Liu Yao, well aware of the intent behind her sex instructions for this errand. It was nothing more than a desire to strengthen their ties. However, being a disciple from a reputable righteous sect, she maintained a reserved demeanor during their first meeting. Without showing much reaction, Bai Liu politely excused herself. "Grandmaster Liu, I have delivered the message and will take my leave now." Experience exclusive tales on novelbin.com. Liu Yao bowed slightly in response. "Thank you for your effort." He took the chance to check her out from head to toe, finding that there was a distinctive allure to a woman dressed in the garb of someone who has renounced worldly life. After Bai Liu left, the 3 girls ganged up and pinched Liu Yao's waist. "You pervert! She's left and you're still looking. And smacking your lips and nodding, you must be thinking something dirty." Liu Yao embraced all 3 of them and laughed. "Appetite and lust are only natural. I was just curious and took an extra look. We should really rest well at home this time and get busy making babies every day." He had worn himself out in Blue Star, Otherworld was his paradise and haven for relaxation. The 3 girls' cheeks flushed, bearing expectant glances, shared a vigorous appetite of their own. At that moment, the holy maiden from Joyful Sect finally seized the opportunity to take the stage. Yun Qinglan walked over in a flowing white dress, her voice as melodious as a songbird. "Grandmaster Liu, I am Yun Qinglan. I've come admiring your reputation and would like to ask for your help with a massage, and there will be a generous reward." After speaking, the maiden's cheeks were even more delicately pink, and she exuded a faint, almost imperceptible virgin fragrance. It was quite apparent what this generous reward entailed. Chapter 355, If you're capable, get your sister to agree as well. Facing the holy maiden who brazenly came to seduce him, the 3 sisters' complexions looked terrible, with Liao Qi in particular being visibly furious. Yun Qinglan smiled indifferently, her delicate toes peeping out from under her white dress as she lightly tapped the ground, her virgin fragrance becoming even more pervasive and incredibly tempting. Their shamelessly provocative attire made the 3 women secretly curse in their minds. Shameless, while also worrying, could their lustful husband resist this temptation? Yun Qinglan was quite confident in her own beauty, believing that Liu Yao would definitely take the bait. The sect had a unique spirit seduction technique, and she, being a virgin, could unleash its tremendous power. Just one encounter with Liu Yao would be enough to make him crave for more, turning him into a subordinate under her skirt. Thinking this, she stimulated her true qi to arouse her body, making her natural scent even more intense. This wasn't some cheap aphrodisiac, but a natural attraction born of instinct. She cast a disdainful glance at the three sisters by Liu Yao's side, implying, "Men are all cats that steal a taste, no matter how closely you watch them, it's useless." But her smugness lasted less than 2 seconds before she heard Liu Yao say indifferently, "I am quite weary from my journey and shall not be receiving guests. Someone show the guest out." With that, he turned and walked away, completely ignoring the seductive holy maiden. 3 spiritual sparrowhawks immediately spread their wide wings, spanning over 6 meters, taking a stance as if to protect their nest, their feathers flashing a metallic cold light in the sunlight. If Yun Qinglan didn't leave, they were ready to attack at any moment. Blood Exchange Realm predatory birds are on par with human martial artists at the innate realm, and 1 against 3 would undoubtedly result in a loss. Yun Qinglan quickly called out, "Grandmaster Liu, I truly admire you, and my virginity is still intact. I will certainly serve with all my secret techniques." Liu Yao, without turning his head, said, "I am immersed in the martial path and have no interest in the pleasures of the flesh." Yun Qinglan realized she had been too eager, but then again, prey that was too easy to catch was also uninteresting. She took a deep breath to calm herself, and with a cold glance at the 3 women who were both shocked and delighted, Li Pei among them, she vanished in the blink of an eye. The 3 sisters followed Liu Yao, their faces brimming with sincere happiness. Liao Qi grabbed his arm and asked, "Hey, aren't you tempted by the beautiful holy maiden who threw herself at you?" "Of course, I am tempted. Such a charming and virgin girl, to say I'm not would certainly be a lie." "Then why did you refuse her?" Liu Yao explained, "It was obvious you 3 disliked that woman, so I refused." "Just because of that? What else could it be?" "Of course, I have to make the 3 of you happy first." Hearing this, the 3 women were deeply moved, their eyes dewy with tears on the verge of falling. Liu Yao found this scene rather unbearable. "As a true man with unwavering willpower, it's natural for me not to be swayed by beauty, right? What are you getting emotional about? Do you see me as a big lecher in your eyes?" Liao Qi nodded vigorously, "Not only are you lecherous, you're quite perverse, always thinking about sleeping together." Right, lecherous and perverse. Discover more stories at novelbin.com. The 3 sisters playfully teased and acted coquettishly, but deep down they were very satisfied with their man. After advancing to the innate realm, he hadn't taken any concubines, and had turned away all the women who threw themselves at him, even the holy maiden of the joyful sect. Which male grandmaster didn't have a host of wives and concubines? Someone like Liu Yao was truly rare. The 3 sisters felt fortunate. They had married the right man. In the following days, Liu Yao lived a very carefree and happy life. One day, he lay with his head on Liao Qi's fragrant thigh, humming a tune while reading the newspaper. Only to see Fu Fangsheng and the other 2 had accomplished a grand affair. The newspapers were blanketed with news about the Boxer rebellion. These fellows neither had sharp weapons nor advanced firearms, their diet consisted of nothing more than millet rice and cornmeal. Neither seeking fame nor fortune, they fought selflessly, putting their lives on the line on the battlefield, in unison, with a united will. They only targeted demon beasts and scoundrels, and did not harm the common folk. By this measure, they seemed to be acting out of righteousness. With the principle of not for fame or riches, not for wealth or beauty, but for the eradication of all demon beasts, the Boxers attracted countless martial artists and even ordinary people to join. They destroyed churches and killed the scoundrels of the martial world who committed unlawful deeds. Every time they destroyed a place, they were able to save many women and children and found evidence of the numerous bloody crimes committed. Many who were originally neutral began to change their stance after seeing the startling photographs published in the newspapers. The world had suffered under the foreigners for too long, and the atrocities they had committed had reached intolerable levels. It took merely 3 months for the Boxer movement to spread like a wildfire across the nation. And the rapid development of the Boxer rebellion caused great panic among the foreigners, who in turn pressed the Shun dynasty imperial court to take measures to exterminate the Boxers. However, the imperial court's attitude was quite ambiguous. They merely gave a perfunctory response and did not order any suppression. Emperor Yong'an was even somewhat exhilarated. When the people spontaneously rise up, there must be a reason. Their righteous indignation is apparent, unlike mere rabble. It is fitting to nurture their edge and sharpen our spears and shields. In the eyes of the rulers, the public's anger towards the foreigners was a force to be relied upon. Since Emperor Yong'an took personal control, he realized he was completely destitute and had no martial artists at his command. The Boxers' rise to power gave him hope. Apart from the oppressed commoners, the main participants of the Boxer rebellion included martial artists with a sense of justice. These people were indeed a force to be reckoned with. While his beloved was reading the newspaper, Liao Qi also glanced at it briefly. The Boxers, now, the foreigners in the concessions dare not go out at night. Are they here in Yunzhou too? Yes, but the foreigners here are powerful, so they only come out to harass at night. The two talked about the Boxer rebellion for a while. Liao Qi tenderly massaged his beloved's head and sighed, "You taught me how to read, you know. It's been such a long time since then." Liu Yao stroked the girl's long and tight beautiful legs and laughed, "Indeed, when you brought me back to the martial arts hall, you really hit the jackpot." Liao Qi leaned in and kissed him, saying sincerely, "You're right, it was the best decision of my life." Every time she recalled the past, Liao Qi felt a shiver of fear. All those enemies harbored ill intentions, with disgustingly filthy thoughts, coveting both her and her sister. Had it not been for Liu Yao, she dared not imagine what terrible things might have happened. At that moment, Liu Yao said, "By the way, I'm almost undergoing the out-of-body experience." Liao Qi was both shocked and delighted, spirit refinement and out-of-body technique. So soon? Liu Yao nodded, hugging the girl tightly, "I promise to make you happy for the rest of your life. I will make it happen with my own strength." Liao Qi also hugged her beloved tightly, and in her excitement, blurted out, "Liu Yao, you've always wanted to sleep together, haven't you?" "I agree." "What? Sleep together?" Liu Yao thought he had misheard and quickly asked, "Really?" But Liao Qi regretted saying it as soon as the words left her mouth and hastily denied it, "Nothing, nothing, you heard wrong. How could I? I'm a practitioner of spirit refinement of divine fetal breathing. You definitely said it. So what if I did? If you've got the guts, get my sister to agree too." Chapter 356, I'll go first in a moment. After roaming for 3 days, Liu Yao fully recuperated, both body and mind in excellent condition, and his energy returned to important matters. The most urgent task at hand was spirit refinement breakthrough to the soul travel realm. The accumulation of mind force had been sufficient long ago, constantly being honed and condensed. This type of cultivation was similar to physical fitness, as long as one exhausted their mind force daily, that was enough. Throwing paper airplanes, charging the star key, playing the pipa charm, various activities could all achieve the effect. At this moment, Liu Yao felt that his mental cultivation had reached the pinnacle of the fetal breath realm. And his long-cherished wish to marry his senior sister had been perfectly fulfilled, every inch of her skin bearing his mark. It was time to attempt soul travel. The divine soul moves from calm to active, from silent to awakened, leaping out from form and body. That is soul travel. In Liu Yao's view, this step should pose no difficulty for him. With deep accumulation and having personally witnessed how Elder Zhou broke through, he believed it should be easily within his grasp. Adjusting his state, he directed his mind force swiftly towards his Yintang A cup ointment, that is, where the pineal gland was located. This organ is a very mysterious part of the human body, naturally capable of sensing the external environment. The body's biological clock relies on it, and many religions and ancient civilizations depict an eye at this location. Liu Yao closed his eyes, his mind force converging rapidly, bringing his full attention to the center of his forehead as well. Soul travel is the divine soul leveraging the mind force, taking a determined leap from the top of the pole. In an instant, he felt his mind force boil over, enveloping the divine soul in a full sprint, trying to make a long jump, leveraging the momentum to leap out of the pineal gland. The turmoil in his mind became more and more intense. If he were an ordinary person, enduring such a degree of cerebral concussion, he would have already turned into an idiot. As the process gradually deepened, the area between Liu Yao's eyebrows became blurred, as if something was trying to leap out. Liu Yao knew the critical moment had arrived. Gathering all of his mind force into the Yintang A cup ointment, innate true qi also converged to assist, aiming to succeed in one fell swoop, to let the divine soul leap out. But just when the divine soul was striving to leap, Liu Yao felt a tremendous pull and suction from his body, as if he were stuck with taffy. This was the natural connection between the body and the divine soul, an instinct to become one. As a result, this leap lacked follow-through, pulled back by the body, he actually failed. Having failed to break through the realm, Liu Yao's face turned deathly pale in an instant, his head sounding as if a land and water festival were being held, gongs and drums clanging loudly, with a nosebleed flowing out. The three girls had been protecting him during his practice and immediately gathered around, anxiously channeling inner breath towards him. Liu Yao casually wiped the blood from his nose and said indifferently, "Don't worry, I am now in the innate realm, the injuries from a failed realm breakthrough are nothing." He spoke lightly, but the three girls were still heartbroken. Liu Yao then laughed and said, "No wonder Elder Zhou he always emphasizes that to soul travel, one must possess the physical quality of the blood exchange realm. Now it seems if the martial Dao realm is not sufficient, spirit refinement seeking a breakthrough is without hope, and forced attempts are nothing but a death sentence. Being in the innate realm, the difficulty is invisibly reduced quite a bit, and I can attempt repeatedly. You don't need to worry." Liaoya took out a handkerchief to carefully clean her junior brother's face, softly saying, "Don't rush, take it slowly. But with such profound accumulation, you still failed, is there something you haven't prepared well enough?" "Knowing is easy, doing is hard," Liu Yao explained. "We've all seen old Daoist Zhou break through, and it looked easy, but it's actually not that simple. He only managed to break through because he fulfilled a decades-long cherished wish in a moment of great liberation, great freedom." Your journey continues with novelbin.com. Liao Qi asked in confusion, "Great liberation, great freedom?" A mischievous smile spread across Liu Yao's face as he said, "It's the joy that comes from deep within your heart. For example, if you girls sleep with me at night, I'd be so happy that my soul would come flying out. I'd achieve soul travel just like that." "Cut it out, you're full of it." The sisters didn't believe him at all, thinking their man was up to his usual tricks. They extended their fingers, lanky as spring onions, to flick his forehead. Liu Yao opened his mouth to bite, eliciting continuous giggles from them. Only Li Pei stared at her husband's face, sensing faintly that what he said might actually be true. After dinner, Li Pei went to the sisters' room and closed the door firmly behind her. The sisters were massaging each other's feet, easing the fatigue from the day's cultivation. Seeing her come in, they asked in confusion, "Sister Li, tonight it's your turn to be with him, why have you come here?" Facing the girl's perplexity, Li Pei said solemnly, "I had previously reported us three as Liu Yao's three wives nominees to the Ministry of Rights, but I didn't expect them to stall and not approve it. Clearly, someone is coveting the position of three wives and is obstructing this from behind the scenes." The sisters stopped massaging, and each withdrew their tender little feet. "What should we do? If this doesn't work out, doesn't that mean Liu Yao will have to take 2 more wives?" Li Pei nodded and said, "That's exactly it. You also met those 2 who visited a few days ago, I suspect it's the holy maiden of the joyful sect who sent people to talk." A moment of silence filled the room. Li Pei looked at the 2 women and said seriously, "What Liu Yao jokingly said today might actually be true, he really is in need of an opportunity. We can help with this, it just depends on whether you 2 are willing." The sisters' faces instantly blushed to their heels. "Sister Li, why are you bringing this up again?" Li Pei bit her lip and said, "Soul travel is a transformational realm in spirit refinement, and its difficulty goes without saying. Failing to break through would surely be extremely painful. Our husband was only pretending to be casual about it to put us at ease. Can you bear to see him fail several more times? There's no better day than today, let's all accompany him tonight." The sisters burrowed into the quilt, not speaking and out of sight. Li Pei provocatively said, "Our husband has done so much for us, and you're still being reluctant about this small matter. I'll go and call the holy maiden of the joyful sect over, I'm sure she'd be eager to help." With that, she turned and walked away. The sisters jumped out of bed without even bothering to put on shoes, and quickly stopped her barefooted. All right, we agree." Li Pei smiled contentedly and said, "That's more like it. What's the big deal? I'll go first in a bit." Liu Yao finished massaging the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks, and then stood up to rest. He faintly remembered that tonight he was to spend it with Li Pei, and that he could happily enjoy his facial cleanser. "Rest for tonight and try again tomorrow. If it still doesn't work, I can only wait for the right opportunity. Breaking through spirit refinement is really hard." Upon entering the bedroom, Liu Yao was startled. The head count was off. He saw the three girls sitting together on the bed, their cheeks flushed red and their eyes shyly averted. Everyone looked at each other wordlessly until Li Pei cleared her throat and stood up, trying to keep her composure. "My lord, in order to help you break through to soul travel, today we'll grant your wish." Upon hearing those words and seeing the three bashful beauties, Liu Yao breathed out 2 plumes of steam from his nostrils, and his spirits soared. "Well, excuse me. I won't hold back then." Chapter 357, Spirit Refinement and Out-of-Body Technique. Liaoya and Liao Qi shrank back shyly, pushing Li Pei to the front. This royal lady had previously declared that she would be the first to face difficulties. However, things in life often go by the adage easier said than done. It's easy to shout slogans, but when it really comes down to action, people start to beat a retreat. At this moment, Li Pei was regretting it. Although she was influenced by Western studies and had a relatively open mind due to her imperial upbringing, she wasn't that open-minded. She also noticed Liao Qi was whispering something in Liao Ye's ear, and with increasing curiosity, the sisters' expressions grew more interested, their big eyes unblinkingly staring at her. Li Pei knew that they must be making fun of the differences in her, ready to enjoy the show. So, the royal lady suddenly stood up and quickly said, "My husband, please enjoy yourself, I'll be leaving first." Before she could finish talking, she had already started to make her escape towards the door, clearly planning to abandon her allies and run for it first. Liaoya and Liao Qi immediately changed their expressions and both exclaimed, "Stop! Don't run!" Liao Qi immediately went to intercept her, while Liaoya suddenly gave her sister a shove, boosting her speed. Discover hidden tales at novelbin.com. Li Pei was just about to step out the door and run away, but Liao Qi, propelled by her sister's push, managed to catch up and grabbed her in a hug. "You dare to run? Where's that righteous look now?" Li Pei struggled. "I can't. I just can't. You started this. How could you desert us in the middle of a battle?" The sisters together dragged her back in, kicking and screaming, and even shut the door firmly behind them. Immediately after, the room erupted with raucous laughter and high-pitched screams. In a short while, one of Li Pei's embroidered shoes was flung out the window. Liao Qi poked her head out to look for the flying shoe, but when she couldn't find where it went, she simply gave up and closed the window. Subsequently, all three women succumbed one by one. And each one who collapsed inflicted double the treatment they had received on the next victim. This mutual incitement caused the scene to become somewhat chaotic at times. Only Liaoya was unexpectedly docile and gentle, letting things take their course. Although her ankles turned red with shyness, her expression was determined, and with an air of sanctity, she said, "Junior brother, this is to help you break through." With such lofty integrity, the sect leader's big senior sister turned out to be the best performer, a stark contrast to the other two who revealed their true colors. Eventually, not until dawn did everyone fall into a deep sleep, surrounded by the lingering scent of orchid fragrance. Despite having 3 cushions on top of him, Liu Yao had the most peaceful and sweetest sleep ever. He unusually slept in late. Only when the sunshine fell on his face did he wake up to Liao Qi tickling him with her hair. The others also woke up one after another. Li Pei huddled in the corner, wrapped in a quilt, covering her face and saying, "This is so absurd." Liu Yao, looking at the 3 women's bashful demeanor, laughed heartily with joy stemming from his heart. Seeing her junior brother's smug look, Liao Yu reached out to tweak his ear, scolding, "You got what you wanted." Liu Yao, with a cheeky smile, clasped his hands and said, "Thank you, my dear wives, for indulging me. I'm deeply grateful." Getting a bargain and still playing cute, he received a unanimous scolding from the women. "Just drop dead, this was to help you break through. There won't be a next time." Liu Yao chuckled, "Once is not enough. If we could do this a few more times, I'm sure I'd achieve the out-of-body." Before he could finish his sentence, he was surrounded by a barrage of punches and kicks. Just out of bed, not yet dressed, the 3 women wrapped themselves with sheets and pounced on him, pounding like they were giving a massage. Liu Yao let them vent their emotions while he closed his eyes and savored the wonderful night. The joy of this moment was not as simple as 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. The allure of the beauty's every frown and smile, every reaction was the epitome of humanity, a delight not even an immortal would trade. At this moment, with his long-cherished wish finally fulfilled, Liu Yao felt nothing but immense satisfaction and joy in his heart. Suddenly, the mind force within his body began to boil. This time it was particularly evident, as ripples appeared in the air at his brow. The three girls hastily stopped and watched over him with care, not even daring to breathe heavily, let alone get dressed. Liu Yao's mind force trembled violently, carrying his divine soul like a long-jump athlete sprinting with all his might. This time, with the great freedom of a wish fulfilled, the physical strain failed to become an obstacle. Liu Yao's divine soul made a valiant leap, breaking free from the numerous sentimental ties, and sprang from his brow. Before everyone's eyes appeared a fist-sized, flickering white little flame. The three girls, realizing that Liu Yao had succeeded, said excitedly. Liu Yao has projected out of body. With the spirit refinement and out-of-body technique, one can be called true person. All that effort overnight wasn't in vain. He really did it, that rascal. The white little flame circled around the three girls a few times, then gently settled on each of their brows. Attachment, admiration, love. The myriad of positive emotions from the girls, Liu Yao perceived them clearly. Moreover, after projecting, he had divine consciousness, which allowed him to scan the external world like radar, viewing the world from an entirely different perspective. Of course, having just made a breakthrough, he felt a bit tired after the experience, so Liu Yao retracted his divine soul back into his body through his brow. He opened his eyes, bowed deeply to the three women, and said earnestly, "Thank you, ladies, for aiding me in attaining my path." According to martial artist customs, a husband making a breakthrough indeed owes much to their wife's support, so this bow was well deserved, prompting the girls to blush and return the salute with a fist. But then, Liu Yao added quickly, "Could you help me solidify my realm once more, please? In your dreams." Fat chance. After the spirit refinement and out-of-body technique, the benefits are so numerous they could fill an entire book. For instance, one could command objects, directing a flying sword 100 miles away to behead someone. One could also possess bodies, forcefully taking over those with weak wills, even controlling them to break their own necks. And, of course, one could create an otherworld version of a smartphone for exclusive use by spirit refinement powerhouses, just like Zhou He did. The wonders are endless, with infinite mysteries awaiting discovery. After stabilizing his realm for a day following his breakthrough, Liu Yao took out the white paper crane that harbored Zhou He's mind force to get in touch. With a light tap 3 times on it, and about a dozen seconds later, the white paper crane came to life, flapping its wings and turning its head. "Liu, my friend, what brings you to me? When will you come to the Imperial City? I'm dreadfully bored here." Zhou He was rambling on, but upon seeing Liu Yao, his voice abruptly stopped, then rose in pitch, "You've projected out of body." Liu Yao replied with a humble smile, "When the opportunity came, I broke through." Indeed, the word opportunity is wonderfully inexplicable. I never expected that borrowing a piece of your clothing would result in my own projection. Yet Liu Yao hadn't expected the girls to be so forward either. One could say that good deeds are rewarded. "Deist Zhou, as soon as I stabilize my realm, I'll come find you in the Imperial City. I'd like to try alchemy with you this time. I have a werewolf's heart that's of the leak-proof grade." This was a gain from his journey to the western frontier, and it was the right time to craft it into a divine pill. The life creation pill? Wonderful! Simply wonderful! Zhou He's voice sounded excited, "Liu, my friend, the word opportunity is wonderfully inexplicable. I am in dire need of that pill." Chapter 358, Hands Full of Cards. After arranging to meet Zhou He in 3 days, Liu Yao continued to focus on stabilizing his realm. Old Deist Zhou was still worried. Wouldn't 3 days be too rushed? However, he didn't know that Liu Yao had a miraculous item that could be put to good use. The ice jade bracelet he had gotten earlier from Kotaro Komura was ready for normal use. Originally, the bracelet was too large and produced a chill that no one could bear, not even Liu Yao for long. After all, ice jade was a special item that affected the divine soul. But with the combined conditions of the innate realm plus soul travel, Liu Yao could wear the ice jade bracelet as if it were ordinary gear. With the bracelet's icy heart concentration ability, it was of great help to spirit refining. With this assistance, stabilizing his realm was a piece of cake, and it also allowed his cultivation speed to far exceed that of ordinary people. In less than 3 days, by the second day, Liu Yao was already able to lift a basketball-sized rock with the power of his mind force. This was the first minor realm of the soul travel stage. Manipulation, followed by possession, and finally, the ultimate form, soul manifestation. The rock weighed nearly 30 kilograms, but Liu Yao lifted it effortlessly and flew it around in the sky for many circles. The soul travel stage allows a spirit refiner to more powerfully interfere with the material world. It's not like before when one could only move paper planes. This is just after the breakthrough. Once the realm is raised, flipping over a tank in the void would be a piece of cake. Of course, that is for the future. Liu Yao's current minor goal was simply to be able to skillfully wield a flying sword. Speaking of which, Liu Yao remembered he had another great item. The lake sword he got in Jinling. This sword, also known as the steel-cutting sword, was the legendary weapon of Einheit, the legendary monarch, with unrivaled sharpness, lethal to vampires upon touch. It would naturally be excellent to use as a flying sword, but he dared not. The incident in Jinling could be called the fuse of a war, and if the sword was seen, not only would golden body level vampires probably group up to kill Liu Yao, but Grandmaster Zheng, who had been framed, would not let him go either. Even now, everyone in the world thought Grandmaster Zheng had gotten all the benefits. Although I dare not use it openly, having it with me as a trump card is not bad. With this thought, Liu Yao went down to the cellar and took out the uniquely shaped lake sword. The appearance of the sword was like a 1.2 meter long steel reinforcement bar, but the material was not metal, it was very much like stone. Moreover, upon seeing the blade, Liu Yao's martial intuition and spirit refining crisis sensing were frantically warning him of the danger. He lightly touched it with his hand and the surface was easily scratched, only the muscles posed some resistance. It should be noted that at this time, without the infusion of innate true qi, this stone sword could already hurt the steel bodies of those in the innate realm, truly a divine weapon. Liu Yao was very satisfied and immediately stored the sword into the space-time bubble, only to see an alarming energy consumption of 10%. This was indeed not a small amount, considering that a 2-ton battle armor only consumed 2%. An 8-ton 155 howitzer only consumed 6%. However, this also proved the extraordinary nature of the lake sword. With this, the space-time bubble now had everything. Airplanes, tanks, cannons, warships, mecha, nuclear bombs, and the lake sword. No longer afraid, whether it be group battles or one-on-one duels. Feeling very secure with so many good items on him, Liu Yao continued his cultivation in a joyful mood. After exercising with the large rock for a while and feeling a bit tired, he thought of finding some fun. He threw the rock aside, and then his divine soul travelled out stealthily to the spot where Liaoya was practicing her punches. On regular days at home, the girls all wore blue stars waist-revealing shaping fitness wear. This outfit was already quite flattering to the figure, and at this moment, Liaoya, drenched in sweat from her practice, had the clothes clinging tightly to her body, outlining an even more beautiful shape. Her small fair waist dazzled the eye. Liu Yao controlled his fist-sized divine soul to quietly approach, then aimed at her enticing heart-shaped protruding buttocks and gave a fierce bump. As the divine soul was silent and invisible, Liaoya was completely unprepared, suddenly feeling as though a hot, large hand had fiercely slapped her bottom. She cried out in shock and covered her buttocks. Liu Yao deeply relished the wonderful touch and immediately burst into laughter. Soul travel is truly too much fun. Liaoya bit her lip and, with a few light steps, arrived at her junior brother's side, reaching out to tug on his ear. "You rascal, can't you focus your energy on something good?" Liu Yao hugged his fragrant senior sister tightly and said, "Aren't I using it in a good way now?" Liaoya pushed him several times without success and eventually let him embrace her. Liu Yao gently caressed his senior sister's exceptionally tactile abdominals. She was very sensitive, and her abdominal muscles immediately tensed up. "Junior brother, are we setting off early tomorrow?" It's less than a 2-hour flight." Ever since the spiritual sparrowhawk underwent blood exchange, the ends of the earth felt like they were right next door. The two embraced quietly for a while until Liaoya said, "Junior brother, I feel so carefree these days, practicing martial arts without a worry and being by your side, I truly wish it could be like this forever." Liu Yao replied, "Don't worry, senior sister, with me around, it'll only get more carefree." While he was speaking, his hands mischievously began to wander upward. Liaoya, who had been feeling blissful upon hearing her junior brother's words, suddenly sensed two roving hands and immediately grabbed them firmly to stop their advance. "You rascal, what do you think you're doing in broad daylight?" At that moment, a deliberately cleared throat rang out from a distance. It was Yu Yanmei, accompanied by Li Pei and Liao Qi. The two girls had encountered a bottleneck in their cultivation and were given individual guidance by Grandmaster Yu. Liaoya quickly got off her junior brother and posed like a lady. As Yu Yanmei approached, she looked at Liu Yao with a look of admiration. To have achieved soul travel so quickly, that's truly commendable. Liu Yao was about to respond with modesty. But Yu Yanmei immediately added, however, young Liu, you need to exercise restraint, do not indulge in carnal desires and waste your talents. Also, I will accompany you to Imperial City tomorrow. Yu Yanmei said her piece quickly and then vanished in the blink of an eye. Liu Yao scratched his head, speechless. The next morning, the family gathered in the courtyard to ride the spiritual sparrowhawk to Imperial City. The 1,000-kilometer journey took the spiritual sparrowhawk an hour and a half, descending upon the golden summit of Miaofeng Mountain. The mountain was entirely reserved by the Wudang sect to serve as their base in Imperial City. 3 majestic spiritual sparrowhawks descended from the sky. Their over 6-meter wingspan exerted a great sense of pressure as their wings stirred up a gust, kicking up sand and stones on the mountain. The one who came to greet them was the long-unseen Taoist Zhou He, who hurried over with an excited expression. Continue your saga on novelbin.com. Yet he didn't look at Liu Yao, heading straight for the spiritual sparrowhawks instead. Truly majestic to the extreme, a rare sight indeed. Taoist Zhou's mind force swept over the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks like radar, full of admiration. The Liu family knew of the old Taoist's fondness for spirit birds and didn't take his current behavior to heart. However, Zhou He did not come alone. Standing beside him was the sect leader of the Wudang sect, Zhang Yunchu. At that moment, he stroked his beard and chuckled, "Young Master Liu, it has been a while. To think that when we meet again, you have become a fellow cultivator of the martial path." Liu Yao returned the greeting with a fist and palm salute. "It's been a long time." Sect leader Zhang still radiates with elegance. It was only then that Zhou He shifted his attention from the spiritual sparrowhawks to Liu Yao, telepathically conveying, "To refine the life creation pill, just the 2 of us won't suffice. I've asked our senior brother to lend a hand. Such a divine pill required a minimum of soul travel realm to be refined. But this was merely the lowest prerequisite. It wasn't too safe with just 2 people, and there were also many rare auxiliary ingredients that were difficult to acquire, so bringing Zhang Yunchu into the fold was also a good call." Chapter 359, Life Creation Pill. A few people exchanged pleasantries, and Liu Yao noticed that behind Zhang Yunchu stood a line of young men and women, each with an extraordinary bearing. There were 7 people in total, 5 men and 2 women, all dressed in glutinous-colored Taoist robes embroidered with cloud patterns, very similar to Hanfu. Zhang Yunchu introduced with quite some pride, "These are the 7 true disciples of our Wudang sect's current generation." The 7 disciples of Wudang bowed in unison and paid their respects. "We are the junior disciples, and we have the honor of meeting Grandmaster Liu." These elites, all true disciples, were a group of elegant and graceful figures, and each one carried a musical instrument. Qin, flute, xiao, there were even ones with drums. Enough to form a complete folk symphony orchestra. Among them was Bai Liu, whom Liu had seen before. She carried a yaogan on her back, her eyes downcast as she bowed in greeting. Liu Yao nodded slightly and said, "A gathering of outstanding talent, truly worthy of being a prestigious section." Zhang Yunchu valued the development of his sect's team highly and was extremely pleased by the guest's praise, stroking his beard and chuckling lightly. This sect leader of Wudang swept his sleeve with aplomb, leading Liu Yao to the main hall. As their elder walked away into the distance, Bai Liu was utterly astonished in her heart. Early in the morning, she had received orders from the sect leader to gather her fellow disciples to welcome Liu Yao. Bai Liu had felt that the sect leader was making too much of a fuss. Was it necessary to welcome the guest with all the disciples together? But when she saw Liu Yao, she realized that he had already achieved the spirit refinement and out-of-body technique. More importantly, how old was he? To attain such a level that others couldn't reach in their entire lives at such a young age. At that moment, a handsome young man with a flute at his waist sighingly said, "Judging by his appearance, this man is younger than I am, yet he has already reached the innate realm and the out-of-body stage. There are always people better than oneself, heavens beyond the heavens. We must not be arrogant and complacent, and must cultivate diligently and earnestly." This eldest among the true disciples, a young master with a natural talent and artistic temperament, was deeply moved at this moment. The other disciples agreed wholeheartedly, and Bai Liu also said, "What eldest brother says is very true. Perhaps our master has us greet him here as a subtle warning." Upon hearing his disciples' words, Zhang Yunchu's smile grew even wider. The three of them arrived at the main hall to discuss matters. Zhang Yuncha waved his sleeve, and a wave of spiritual fluctuation spread out, enveloping the entire room, making it impossible for anyone to eavesdrop or peek. Liu Yao secretly took note of the technique, stealthily learning another move. The group was no stranger to each other, so Liu Yao went straight to the point and took out the werewolf's heart. After extracting the heart from a gubai, he immediately stored it in a space-time bubble for preservation, maintaining its quality and freshness. The heart's condition was excellent, seemingly so alive that it appeared to still be beating. Zhang Wenxia showed great interest after seeing it. This must be the heart of the leak-free werewolf, preserved so perfectly, it looks as if it was just taken out. Without a doubt, a divine alchemy ingredient. He immediately stroked his beard and mused, young Master Lu's intention is clear to me. You want me to provide all the auxiliary materials for us to refine the life creation pill together. Liu Yao nodded, indeed, I'd like to know what sect leader Zhang thinks. Zhang Wenxia coughed softly and said in a low voice. This pill is exceptional. It can regenerate severed limbs, and as long as the head isn't smashed, it can bring someone back to life. I would naturally be happy to participate, but we must agree beforehand on how the pills are to be distributed once they are successfully refined. We need 69 types of auxiliary materials, and it will take a great deal of effort. I shall lend my full support, and once it is done, I'll take 70%. How about that? To ask for 70% right off the bat was a clear case of opening with a lion's mouth. Before Liu Yao could respond, Zhou He stood up expressionlessly and said, we will go to Fawa Temple to find Wu Jing, he knows alchemy too. After saying this, he pulled Liu Yao and walked out, moving swiftly without hesitation. Zhang Yunchu hurriedly blocked their way. Fellow disciple, wait. There is always room for negotiation between fellow disciples of the same section. He then gestured with his hand, how about 50%? That's my bottom line. Zhou He still pulled Liu Yao and turned to leave, decisively and resolutely. Zhang Yunchu blocked them once more, don't be hasty, fellow disciple. We can't just let those bald monks benefit. Name your price. 1 pill, Zhou He held up a finger, no matter how many we make, both of us only take 1 pill each. Ah? 1 pill. Zhang Yunchu's face changed dramatically, we can make 4 or 5 pills in one batch, fellow disciple, you can't be joking with me. Elder brother, in dealing with people, one must never be greedy, Zhou He sighed and said. Even if you have a plethora of supplementary medicines, this heart is the main ingredient. Who knows how many people would be willing to pay 10 times the price to participate. We lend a helping hand and receive 1 pill, it's already in consideration of past friendship. Zhang Yuncha fell silent. A leak-free demon beast was rare and extremely powerful. To risk one's life in battle for its heart and preserve it so perfectly, it was unquestionably a divine ingredient for alchemy. Zhou He continued, what veils the sky's clarity is the mist, what veils man's clarity is personal desire. Brother, there are times when one must let go. Tired of hearing the same old platitudes, Zhang Yunchu interrupted, enough, this pill is of great use to you, so I'll go with your decision this time. Having said that, he stood up and bowed to Liu Yao before heading out to prepare for alchemy matters. Liu Yao heard this conversation and thought to himself, this pair of brothers seems to be having a disagreement, and it isn't just about alchemy. Zhou He sighed and explained, my brother wants to secure the position of the state preceptor to restore our sect's former glory and reverence. I fear he might put his own life at risk, hence I constantly remind him. Liu Yao nodded without providing much comment on the internal affairs of the Wudang sect. The imperial city during the waning years of the dynasty was fraught with bewildering changes and dangers, one misstep could lead to the complete devastation of the entire sect. An hour later, everyone gathered in the backyard. They saw a 2-meter-tall alchemy furnace already set up there, with the 7 disciples of Wudang holding various medicinal herbs at the ready. Li Pei and the other 2 women also stood gracefully to the side. Discover hidden content at novelbin.com. One naturally had to witness the spectacle of a spirit refinement master crafting an immortal pill. Liu Yao and the other 2 approached and stood in position near the furnace, with Yu Yanmei also present. Creating a life creation pill of such caliber could not be done with ordinary fire, it required true fire, which is the high temperature formed by innate true qi. Yu Yanmei, with a flawless martial path and continuous true qi, was the most suitable power bank. Under the expectant gazes of the onlookers, she took the stage first, pressing her hands against the outer wall of the furnace as a massive amount of innate true qi was poured in. Instantly, Yu Yanmei's hair danced wildly, and the bronze alchemy furnace gradually turned red hot. This spectacle, purely powered by the vital energy of the human body, drew astonished admiration from the crowd for the formidable power of a flawless martial path practitioner. There was no qualitative difference between this realm and the innate realm, but the quantity of true qi far surpassed it, much like the difference between a faucet and a fire hydrant. Before reaching the spirit refinement and out-of-body technique, alchemy required hands-on effort. Now it looked much more relaxed. Zhang Yunzhu and Zhou He casually waved their hands, and with a thought, various precious auxiliary herbs levitated and flew into the furnace in a specific sequence. Under high temperatures, the herbs and true qi underwent an amazing chemical reaction. The next step was precision work. 3 spirit refinement powerhouses were able to accurately capture the fleeting changes of materials, like the most advanced human extraction devices. Liu Yao and the others stood with focused minds and, upon their command, countless impurities were separated out of nowhere, while the useful components were gathered together. The timing was impeccable. Not a moment too soon, for then the medicinal effects would be useless, nor even a millisecond too late, or the whole furnace would turn to charcoal. Gradually, the furnace revealed a pool of slowly rolling, amber-colored medicinal liquid. The faint medicinal fragrance was invigorating, with just the auxiliary herbs having better effects than the best tonic. But this was still not enough. The trio continued to extract and purify until the medicinal liquid was crystal clear, like the highest grade amber, such that even under a microscope not a speck of impurity could be found. Zhang Yunzhu said, "It's ready, put in the heart. Grandmaster Yu, give it your full strength with true qi." With a flick of Liu Yao's finger, the heart floated steadily into the alchemy furnace, melting away like rock sugar in boiling water. The medicinal liquid inside the furnace boiled and churned even more violently, causing the entire furnace to shake. Yu Yanmei immediately went all out, channeling all her true qi. Meanwhile, Liu Yao and the others continued their strenuous extraction and purification, with various impurities being separated out over time. But the residue that was now being picked out could not be discarded. This was the remnant of countless top-grade medicinal herbs, still possessing potent medicinal properties. It was more than enough for those at the blood exchange realm to consume, and in fact, the potency was so intense that they dared not use too much of it. The 7 disciples of Wu Dang joyfully collected it all in jade vials, and Bai Liu even kindly offered a portion to each of the 3 women. The women repeatedly declined, modest yet firm in their refusal, as they were not lacking in resources. Seeing this, Bai Liu did not insist and happily distributed it among his own brothers. The quantity of 3 portions is worth nearly 600 pieces of silver, only a fool would refuse. So it went on for 3 days and 3 nights, until the break of dawn on the 4th day, when 7 green pills the size of longan fruits appeared in the alchemy furnace. Everyone present subconsciously gulped, their bodies instinctively longing with the urge to devour. These were immortal pills painstakingly created by 3 spirit refinement experts, who had used countless top-tier resources in their crafting. Moreover, the fame of the life creation pill for its ability to save a life as long as the head is still in place was well known. Chapter 360, Self-Healing Factor. Thanks to young Master Lu's perfect preservation of the main ingredient, we actually have 7 pills. Zhang Yunzhu had a thought, and the 7 pill beads each flew into a jade bottle. As per the agreement, he and Taoist Zhou He each took 1, leaving the remaining 5 for Liu Yao. Although he didn't get the lion's share, Zhang Yunzhu was also beaming with joy. The life creation pill was a rare elixir that could enhance life-saving abilities. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, he tilted the jade bottle into his mouth, directly swallowing the elixir, and even chewed it with relish, going crunch, crunch. Not bad, taking this pill can grant the werewolf's miraculous self-healing ability, in Western terms, healing factor, the self-healing factor. Zhang Yunzhu, spouting a mouthful of fluent foreign language, was very pleased with the effects of the elixir. Martial artists already have formidable physiques, which go especially well with the self-healing factor, and with this, limb regeneration is a piece of cake. The crowd looked at him with strange expressions, speechless. Zhang Yunzhu leisurely swallowed the elixir, saying with composure, "As the sect leader of a faction, I bear great responsibility, and I cannot afford to fail. Taking an elixir to enhance my life-saving abilities is quite reasonable." "It's reasonable, but..." Liu Yao said, "Won't you keep it as a life-saving trump card? This immortal pill can bring you back as long as your head isn't smashed." "Young Master Liu, you've got the wrong idea," Zhang Yunzhu explained. "If you're beaten until only your head is left, holding on to any elixir would just be offering resources to the enemy. Better to swallow it directly and gain the self-healing factor, which might just turn the tables. Discover hidden stories at novelbin.com. You make a very good point. Liu Yao nodded, thoroughly convinced. At that moment, Zhou He said, young friend Liu, don't mind my senior brother. You have 5 pills, do as you please. Next, Liu Yao immediately gave one of the pills to Yu Yanmei, Grandmaster Yu, without your help, we couldn't have produced so many, please accept this one. Yu Yanmei glanced at him and accepted it without any refusal. After that, Liu Yao gave one to each of his 3 sisters. You all heard what sect leader Zhang said, just eat it, and we'll talk about gaining the self-healing factor. With that distribution, only one of the 5 elixirs was left. At this time, the 7 disciples of Wu Dang were scraping the residue from the medicine cauldron, feeling extremely satisfied to eat even the scraps of a divine pill. Witnessing this scene almost made them flip. No one would think they had too much of something that could be a life-saving trump card. But there was Liu Yao, generously sharing it with his women on the spot. Bai Liu was so shocked she couldn't speak, inwardly sighing, no wonder he doesn't care about the leftovers. The 3 sisters joyfully accepted the gifts from their beau. Under countless envious and jealous gazes, Li Pei, with the strongest vanity, felt her heart melting. She really wanted to have some close contact with her beau, to calm the excitement in her heart. Liu Yao laughed, take advantage of the pill's strongest effects and eat it now. The 3 women nodded repeatedly, thank you, my lord. Brother, you should eat yours too. Right, Liu Yao, you eat too. Liu Yao and the 3 sisters held their porcelain bottles, their movements very slow, staring at each other with big eyes and small eyes, and oddly, no one took out their pill to eat. Li Pei exchanged glances with the Liao family sisters, sharing a knowing smile. The 3 of them had the same idea. They couldn't just eat all the elixirs, who knows what might happen in the future, the family should always keep something for life preservation. According to the regular script, the 3 girls would now start modestly refusing and offering excuses. But Liu Yao was a decisive person. In an instant, his figure flashed, and abruptly split into 3, unmistakably using the long unused moon shadow body. The 3 duplicates made their move with lightning speed. Prying open the girls' mouths, shoving the elixirs in, and then smoothly stroking down their necks, ensuring the elixirs were swallowed. The entire process was completed in less than 0.3 seconds. The girls had no guard up against Liu Yao, and being an entire realm behind him, they were easily taken by surprise. The 3 ladies surrounded their man, pouting, why would you do that? We wanted to save them for emergencies. Liu Yao chuckled, just eat it, be good and listen. Left with no other choice, the 3 women could only focus on absorbing the efficacy of the medicine, while also making sure their man took his share as well. By then, Liu Yao had one last immortal pill, but he did not seem to intend on consuming it, instead, he pocketed it. Li Pei curiously asked, young master, aren't you going to eat it? I need this one for something else, can't eat it, Liu Yao replied. I'm thinking of giving this immortal pill to sect leader Zhang. Upon hearing this, everyone understood immediately, as it was common knowledge that sect leader Zhang's lifespan was nearing its end. Zhang Yunxia sighed, sect leader Zhang is in the golden body realm, this pill might not be very effective. Zhou He also remarked, there have been records of a great grandmaster consuming this pill, extending life by 12 years, but sect leader Zhang's golden body has been broken several times, it might be even shorter. Liu Yao smiled, this is still good, I'll deliver it to him in a bit. At this moment, Bai Liu looked at the 3 women with Liu Yao, her envy clear and distinct. Such an excellent man. Damn! I should have been more forward during my last visit to Jin Garden. He obviously coveted my body. After the hustle and bustle, everyone went their separate ways, and the Liu family also headed towards their guest room. On the way, Yu Yanmei casually remarked, Liu Zizi, you're quite generous, giving away something so good without keeping any for yourself. It's truly wasteful for my silly disciple to consume it. Hearing this, Li Pei discontentedly wrapped her arms around her master's arm, cooing, Master, I'm your close disciple, you shouldn't say things that hurt your disciple's heart. Liu Yao laughed as well, I cultivate dual divine skills, and my physique has always been far superior to ordinary innate beings. This elixir is just icing on the cake, nothing more. Yu Yanmei looked at him admiringly and gave him a pat on the shoulder, you're doing well. Grandmaster Yu flatters me. Liu Yao was about to respond politely, but suddenly realized that the Yu Yanmei in front of him was somewhat transparent. A fake. The next instant, the real Yu Yanmei was already close to him, repeating exactly what Liu Yao had done moments before. Prying his mouth open, stuffing an elixir in it, then swiping down his neck, and the elixir went down. The whole process took less than 0.1 seconds, her technique much faster than Liu Yao's. Amusingly, Liu Yao was caught completely off guard and, being an entire realm behind, was outmaneuvered by Yu Yanmei. Just like when he fed the three girls earlier. At that moment, Liu Yao was utterly speechless. Grandmaster you. With a relaxed smile on her face, Yu Yanmei's voice was sweet as a lark's, I am in the flesh realm. This elixir is just icing on the cake for me as well, nothing significant. Even her response was a clever plagiarism of Liu Yao's. After saying her piece, she disappeared in a flash. Liu Yao burst into laughter, then took care to absorb the elixir's potency diligently, not wasting Yu Yanmei's kind gesture. Liao Yi looked in the direction Yu Yanmei had left, her expression that of a fan seeing her idol. Grandmaster Yu is truly a character. Liao Qi nodded repeatedly in agreement, yes, such a precious elixir, and she just gave it to Liu Yao to eat. Even though the flesh realm can't regenerate lost limbs, right? Li Pei sighed, ever since I first saw her when I was 3 years old, she hasn't changed a bit.